It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. It's the return of Stacey Higginbotham for 1 week only. Special appearance. We'll also talk to Ben Parr, our AI expert, and my good friend Allyn Malventano, former host of This Week in Computer Hardware. He used to be under the sea. Now he's on solid state as an SSD expert at Phison. We'll talk about, of course, solid state technology, new memory technologies, AI vandalism. I say it should be illegal, and a whole lot more. It's all coming up next. Guess the Vision Pro on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 964, recorded Sunday, January 28th, 2024. No one talks to the Faucet anymore. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Gusto. Running a small business is just plain hard. Gusto lets you focus on the joy of running your business with its easy-to-use payroll software, accessible online from anywhere. Gusto helps more than 300,000 businesses, and 90% of its customers say switching to Gusto was easy. You get unlimited payroll for one monthly price, no hidden fees. You get multiple schedules and rates, direct deposit, and checks you can print yourself. Plus, Gusto integrates with your favorite tools to make life easier. Tools like QuickBooks, Xero, Google, and more. File and pay all federal, state, and local payroll taxes in all 50 states. 3 out of 4 customers say running payroll with Gusto takes 10 minutes or less. Gusto cares about the small business owners they work with, and since money can be tight right now, you'll get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. Go to gusto.com/tech and start setting up your business today. Twit listeners, you'll get 3 months free once you run your first payroll. Gusto, GUSTO.com/tech. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. This is going to be like old home week. This is fun for me. Say hello to Stacey Higginbotham. We miss her so much on This Week in Google. She is a policy fellow at Consumer Reports, still writes a little bit, does a lot of things, but it's so nice to have you back in front of our microphones. Hi, Stacey.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Everything going well there in beautiful Washington State?
It is. It's awesome. This warm winter. I know it's like the end of the world, but I love it anyway.
Yeah. Has Andrew got you playing pickleball yet, or?
Not quite.
Silence spoke a few words. Lisa and I have been playing the old pickleball. It's kind of fun.
Oh, see, I thought you'd want to know how many connected devices I've taken out of my house.
Have you been able to remove them now? Stacey, of course, had a Stacey on IoT.com and the IoT podcast and all that stuff, and just kind of let that all go. And as a result, you had to have all this IoT crap. You had to go to CES. You had to do all sorts of stuff you don't have to do anymore.
I still went to CES.
Oh, well, there you go. Good. I'll ask you about it. Also here, Ben Parr, our good friend, longtime friend of the show, author of The AI Analyst. He, 8 years ago, founded an AI startup, Octane AI, right in the nick of time, and writes about AI for the information. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Why do you have a little Reddit guy behind you? Is that just...
Oh, that is actually the mascot for my company, Octane AI. His name's Octi. Actually, hold on. I've got the plushie version. Do you want a plushie version? I will send you the plushie.
I would love that. He does look a little bit like the Reddit guy, but...
Yeah, his name's Octi. He was invented in 2016. He floats around.
I guess
These are very popular with kids.
All floating robots.
If you want a cute robot, they all look alike.
They all look pretty much the same, right? If they don't look like...
It looks like Eva from WALL-E.
That's right.
Eva.
If they don't, you don't want them to look like, one of those dogs from Boston Dynamics. So I guess it's fair. That's fair. Hello, Ben. Welcome. Good to see you again. And who else is here? Formerly host of This Week in Computer Hardware, an SSD expert, our SSD expert forever. He is now SSD technologist at Phison. What? I don't know the name Phison. Should I, Allyn Malventano?
Good, because their controller technology is in an awful lot of SSDs.
Oh, so they're an infrastructure behind the scenes kind of.
Right. I've been working my way further and further back in the industry.
And you see behind him the remnants of all the things.
Remnants of all the things, yes. Yeah. So I find problems at one company, and then it's like, oh darn, we have to work around the problems that come from the controller. Okay, well, let me just go work for a controller company then. I'll just fix other problems there before they even get to the SSDs.
I actually saw a story this week, and I thought, I should ask Allyn about it. It's not exactly SSDs, but it's memory technology. Samsung has introduced this new LP CAM memory technology that is in theory going to replace something that's already been replaced, SODIMMs. But they say it's faster than LPDDR5, yeah?
Yeah, it's a wider bus. It's just, a lot of DIMM technologies in general, there's a workaround where you have to, the bits have to go across a fixed number of lanes, right? And if you can make that bus more efficient, wider, any of those things, especially on mobile, leads to better performance and battery life.
Of course, a number of companies, including Apple, have started putting the RAM on the package, which I think eliminates that bus. You have a unified memory, eliminates that bus overhead, right?
It does. Well, the bus is just way faster.
Yeah, you're right next to the processor. Yeah,
right. But there are other cons to go with that. Sometimes if you're stacking directly on top, now it's harder to get heat out of the heat producing thing underneath the memory
that's a good point,
on the side of it. So
does CAM have a future, this compressed attached memory module?
We'll have to see. This is one of those where it's just been announced and it's not, it's not one of those things where, hey, this is out now and it's all of a sudden ubiquitous. Everybody's making a thing with it. So yes, it's a standard. It's a thing people could use. We have to wait and see.
Okay. Well, see, I see these things and I think, boy, I wish Allyn was here. So now that you were here, I asked you about that.
Can I ask Allyn later about RISC-V adoption and SSD controllers?
Sure. Let's ask him now. RISC-V adoption. Stacey, when we were on Twig, we talked a lot about this open source architecture to replace x86, or I guess even ARM, RISC letter V for 5. But I'm seeing more. Intel's when you were at Intel, they were doing it, right?
Well, I didn't get that much in the weeds when I was at Intel to even be able to speak on it.
Right.
I was more worried with evaluating the performance of the platform and the SSDs versus comp. I didn't usually have to go so far back in the chain where I was talking ASICs.
But you can you must still have an opinion on RISC.
Well, it initially, Western Digital was one of the big adopters of it for early adopters for building.
Yeah.
Anyway. We don't have to
to this week in risk this week in risk.
We've already, the audience has increased so dynamically because people, they're talking about RISC-V. Everybody, come on over. No, probably not.
Hey, listen, as far as SSD things go, anything that can move the bits faster and more power efficiently and accomplish all of the tasks that the SSD controller needs to do is a viable solution for that, right? It just depends on who does it. And if they choose to, and what's the cost benefit for it?
All right. I know what everybody wants us to talk about, or conversely doesn't want us to talk about, which is that Friday, February 2nd, people will start getting the Vision Pro headsets from Apple. And you're going to start seeing YouTube, actually sooner than that probably, because I'm sure the people who get loaners from Apple will be off embargo probably Wednesday. So you'll start seeing Wednesday the reviews, and you'll see the thumbnails on YouTube going, or Ben, you ordered one. You must have ordered one.
I did order one. I got up at, was it 1, 2 in the morning to make sure to order one?
5 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m.
5 a.m., whatever time it was.
Yeah, it felt like 1 or 2. Did you, here's the critical question. Did you order it to go pick it up in the store so you can get that 25-minute pitch on how great this thing is? Or did you, like Alex Lindsay, and like Jason Snell, say, just send it to me. I'll figure it out.
I did the store version.
Oh, good.
It was going to be a hair faster. And you know what? I got to report. I got to do a video or something, put it on TikTok.
Yeah. Mike is going in there. I wonder if they'll let us, do a little video of him, getting the tour. I want to see Ben Parr's spooky eyes on the front of it. That's going to be really cool.
Next time I go into it, I'll wear nothing but the Vision Pro do the entire time. Just see if I can.
Did you send him your glasses prescription? Are you going to get the Zeiss lenses?
I don't. So I can see just fine without the glasses. They're just like, and like
to make you look smarter. Is that it?
I literally just got my eye exam like an hour and a half ago, funny enough. And like it's enough. It's like where it's nice for me to drive. I could theoretically drive without.
Oh, okay.
The world seems a little clearer, but close up stuff, like it's
fine.
actually better for me not to wear glasses.
Nice.
Don't need it. So
well, you have one advantage. You can lend your Vision Pro to other people. It won't be
my fiance has got to go and play around and do stuff, we got to watch. I don't know.
She's a playwright, so I imagine she'd be interested in how Vision Pro might impact theater.
I wonder if you could. I had to see if like they have like easy switching accounts, because then you could like have your own workspace.
They have a guest mode, I think. There is a guest mode, yeah.
Because I would. Is
your fiance interested at all? I have literally asked all the normal people that I talk to, and they are just like, "What the hell? I have zero interest in this." And all of my efforts to drum up any sort of excitement. So I'm just curious, like, do the real people in your
life? If it had Risk 5 in it, maybe there'd be.
No, just call it the Swifty 5. Here's what I think, Stacey. I think that no one outside of developers has real interest. And the goal for Apple this year is not to get mass adoption. It's like get it in the hands of developers who will get excited and build some stuff for it. And then they'll go more mass market and cheaper afterwards. But in the interim, if your friend has it, you're going to be like, sure, I'll try it. And most likely they'll be like, oh my God, this is awesome. Maybe. And then they hear, oh, it's $1,000 cheaper next year. Oh, I think I will go and get it. That's my guess with how Apple is rolling this out. It needs a couple years to get more developers on board. But if they drop the price, which they'll be able to do in a few years, they can get more adoption.
And in line with what Ben was just saying there, the thing that I think is missing from it so far, and that's not to say that it's not great, and the experience appears to be pretty impressive, but it's missing the killer app, right? It doesn't have... Not
just the killer app, but the killer app category. Like,
right.
What exactly do you need this for?
Right. Yeah. And so I think in order, they're in this chicken and the egg proposition right now, where they need to get the hardware into way more hands, so that there's enough developers out there to try to do something cool with it that really sets it off. And then don't be surprised if somebody does something really impressive with the technology, and then Apple just immediately acquires that thing and then spins on it for a year and makes it, way better, and then ships it as, along with whatever the next generation.
Any guesses as to at least the area? Will it be a game? Will it be watching videos? Will it be that spatial video that they're pushing, where you could take a 3D video with your iPhone, and then it's like you're there in the Vision Pro? Will it be they're also talking productivity, which is bizarre to me. I can't imagine trying to do an Excel spreadsheet on that thing.
Right.
What will it be? What category?
I think, a lot of those things you just mentioned were already shown, and it remains to be seen as how it plays out, whether or not those would be deemed a killer app, right? You can already watch a movie. That's already a capability of it. It's not something they added later.
Although both YouTube and Netflix have decided not to put out a Vision Pro app, probably in a fit of pique about the App Store more than anything else, as has Spotify.
It makes sense from their perspective, though. It's going to be so few people in the beginning. They can always launch one later, a year from now, 2 years from now. And they have a bunch of other stuff to do. It's what I get the decision to go and do that. It's probably a game if I had to give the first version of something. Like, people are always surprised by how much the Meta's, Quest sells. They sell a lot. They're very popular at Christmas time. And games are probably still the biggest thing, with workouts and a couple other things. Still no idea what the killer app is going to be. That's just going to take some time.
Okay. So I think there's niche gaming opportunities as a killer app. I think working out, that's a popular idea for people. I don't know why, because strapping something that weighs that much to my face and sweating in it is like the least exciting option.
I played lightsaber on my Oculus Pro, my Quest Pro, for about half an hour. And yeah, you feel pretty grody at the end of it.
It's a workout too.
I look at it and I think we're going to, it feels like a flamingo in an egg kind of situation, or some bird that nobody really wants to eat. Or
a dodo in an
eggs.
egg, perhaps?
No, why did we kill the dodos? Did we eat them? I don't know.
There's a whole history. There's a whole history there.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I don't actually remember why the dodos died. But so I look at this and I'm like, I feel like
how about
society will have to get really terrible.
Passenger and the egg.
No, because they had value. Like, we wanted passenger pigeons.
We ate 'em.
I'm not sure we want this. Yeah, we thought passenger pigeons were yummy.
Yeah.
But I feel like the opportunity that this offers so far, and will probably offer for a couple more years, is a true escape from the world we live in. And I don't know if the world is that bad for that many people just yet. I think it could get there.
It's interesting.
And I think
that's
what would drive adoption.
Because all of the VR sci-fi stories, those VR helmets, whether it's Neuromancer or Ready Player One, are used as an escape from a dystopian future. Like, the world's terrible, and you want to live in the metaverse.
And if you're like a Gen Z kid who's like stuck in an apartment with like 8 people and you work all like, that feels like a couple of years from now that could be good for you. Like, but it's still super expensive, and I don't see that changing.
That's a pretty dystopian view, though. It's like, and I agree with you, because one of the things I don't like about it is it isolates you. Even if you're watching a movie, you're watching it all by yourself. We have a pretty good experience with a nice TV and a good surround sound and a couch where we can, communally enjoy something. But that's not the VR experience. It's a very solitary thing. But you make a good point. If you have 8 roommates, maybe that's not such a bad thing to be solitary.
Or you're on an airplane.
I don't. Do you think you're going to see? Are you going to get on a plane next week, and there'll be people wearing Vision Pros up and down the aisles?
Someone's going to do it for the fun, for the.
From the Seattle to San Francisco. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do it for the novelty factor. So someone asks me a question, and also just to report on it. But am I going to bring a $3,500 computer device on trips with me? No, not normally. But I did have an idea through this conversation. Vision Pro for toddlers. You put on the thing, you don't have to worry about your kids for 6 hours.
Yeah, you don't have to think about them. Yeah. It's like
there's your killer app.
High-tech pillowcase. You put them in it, and that's it. Now, you and I hope you can translate this, because you put the Ming-Chi Kuo article in on the Vision Pro's first weekend pre-order, but it's in Chinese. So he said, what, 180,000? I can't.
Keep scrolling down. They have the English.
Oh, there's the English. There. Okay. Woo, thank you. Based on pre-order inventory and shipping time, Ming-Chi Kuo, who's usually fairly accurate, estimates that Apple sold 160 to 180,000 Vision Pros during the first pre-order weekend. The date did slip out to a month. I don't know where it is today. He says it's about 5 to 7 weeks within hours. They say, Apple says, I think that they can make as many as 500,000 a year, because the limitation is actually those Sony screens inside it. And Sony has said we can't make that many. So 500,000 a year. It's not intended to be a big seller, though. This is Apple releasing something for a very niche market. They hope mostly developers, and then using some very high-end Apple fans as beta testers, basically, for a whole new concept of computing. That's what I see. And Jason Snell explained this on Mac Break Weekly. He said, if you're Apple and you need the next best big thing right after the iPhone, because the iPhone's not going to last forever, so that you've got to find something. One of the things you're going to try is this kind of maybe AR glasses idea, but you don't have the technologies yet to release that. So in order to be ready when it comes 10 years from now, maybe, you've got to start trying stuff out now, knowing it's a small market and it's an expensive market to be in, and it's going to be a money loser for years to come. But Apple can afford it, and this is what Apple needs to do. You agree?
I mean, that's what Google thought when they released the Google Glass way back in the day. We've all seen
Microsoft HoloLens.
Yeah, we've all seen this before, and I wonder if 2024, given all the craziness around the election, given interest rates, given all of this, and Apple has tons of money, will investors let them play this out to the extent they need to? And that's a really open question.
They get a lot of leeway. It is an open question, but they're going to also let them do a car in some amount of time. I feel like there is actually a lot of interest in like smart glasses. Like the Meta Ray-Bans are actually more popular than people think. People do like those
Mike
things.
Elgin was on a couple of months ago, and he's swearing by them. He got me this close to buying them. And those are prescription glasses. You have good speakers in the temple piece. And they're decent battery life. I think he said 4 or 5 hours, right? And it's got a camera built in. They just added an AI feature where you could take a picture of something and the glasses will then tell you what it is or do some sort of, Google Lens style search on it.
I want them. Although Meta Ray-Bans make a wider version because even your wide version is just a hair too tight on my face.
Oh, you're like me. You got a fat head. I got a fat head.
I got a fat head.
Yeah.
But the idea, I think Stacey's makes the exact right point with like, they're thinking like 10 years down the road, maybe the technology is good enough to get into like a glasses format, which I think people are interested in.
I think people do want this. Yeah. But there's a lot holding it back, Stacey. There's battery life, right? That's a lot of compute power if you're really going to do something more than these Meta glasses do.
Yeah, there's tons of hardware development. There's quality internet connectivity that really hasn't been solved for something like, I know like we think it has, but there's a lot that needs to be solved here. And I get why companies are like, yes, we must invest in face computing. Because that's the next obvious option.
By the way, I am calling it face computing from now on. Apple is really going to great pains to say it's spatial computing. No, it's face computing. Thank you, Stacey.
It is like spatial computing to me. Like we want to get there. That's like that smart dust. That's the sci-fi. I'm flinging up a screen, and you can do that with AR glasses. But
it's face computing. Face it. Face it, Apple. Yeah. All right, but the real question is, for instance, 5G. We have the technology to put ubiquitous high-speed internet pretty much everywhere. That, maybe it'll have to be improved a little bit. Maybe a Wi-Fi 7 is going to help. I'm sure that's part of the point of Wi-Fi 7. So those things are, you can see them in the future. But battery technology has not been leaping forward. Right now, you have to wear a separate battery pack with a wire to use the Vision Pro for any length of time. Even then, it doesn't go for very long.
Well, both 5G and Wi-Fi are hugely battery intensive.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So there's technologies I think that they don't even exist right now.
It's 10. Yeah, like the people are working on the battery stuff, but decade away.
You think it's a decade?
Longer?
Yeah.
I've read up some stuff. There's some interesting stuff being done and interesting approaches. I have a hard time predicting that one because that one ends up also on the physical limitations of our ability to power things. I hope it's a decade away. I think Apple probably thinks it's something like that, which is why they would come out with something now with a bigger thing, because eventually they'll be like super battery. It's in the thing, but it's still years.
But you do raise a good point, Stacey. How long will stakeholders put up with this? Especially if it's a big drain on Apple's resources. Right now, Apple shareholders are pretty darn happy with Apple. They're not exactly leaving the stock in droves.
We have a story later on about layoffs and talking about how shareholders are thrilled about that. So I look at, if you're like really considering investors and shareholders in these sorts of conversations and calculations, they're not long-term thinkers. Yeah,
that's right.
And if they're spooked right now because of everything, then it's just an open question.
It's a great point. They've got to convince the board and the shareholders that, to put in, what did Meta put into its VR efforts? More than $10 billion a year.
Which is not a success.
Yeah, and is not paid off.
Although pivoted to AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They pivoted to AI. In fact, that's the other question. Maybe Apple's making a mistake going all in on AR. Should they be going in on AI harder?
This is such a dumb question. Sorry, Leo.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to have you back, Stacey. They were wondering how long it would take, and I think that took about 12 minutes. So thank you.
So
no,
sorry.
I'm teasing. It doesn't bother me at all. It is a dumb question. Tell me why.
Because, look, for any sort of AR experience, if we think about the hardware that we need to have for shrinking the hardware down to give us like true computing on our face or whatever spatially, there are going to have to be new interfaces. The best interfaces that we can possibly have are going to be, if not driven by like AI, like learnings in AI. I'm losing my words here, but AI is just a crucial part. It's like saying, I want to build a computer today without considering the latest wireless.
Yeah, you need AI in these
just
glasses.
Part of it.
Yeah, you need it, or it's not nearly as useful. But if you can use the glasses or the spectacles or the nerd helmet or the whatever you call it, if you can use it to look out at the world and get analysis and information back, that's much more useful than if you're just playing Pong. So I agree with you. Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of. There's a lot of reports. They're working on AI for sure, on interesting things internally. Apple's just always later, but they do it where it's much more perfected than others. So, I keep on saying it over and over again. If there's just one company where I'll never really bet against them, it's Apple. You know, like smart. People were like, the watch, man, the watch is pretty dang popular. Like they've done a good job.
It was a form factor we already were wearing. It was something we're used to wearing. And I admit I wasn't sold on the watch at first. The iPhone was not. You're right. The
iPhone was not.
Okay, no, but
when the iPhone came out, we were already hungry for internet on the. I will say the iPhone. Okay, the watch. That was actually a really slow adoption curve for the first 2 years of the watch. Nobody actually it was a failed product. But the iPhone, I don't know about y'all, but I remember driving around trying to search for things on my Palm Pilot, and we had our Nokia phones.
Yes.
That just democratized it. So I think the demand and hunger was there for.
Yeah, we all had
Blackberries.
We all had Blackberries.
Blueberries.
I'm dressed as a blueberry. There's a difference. We all had Blackberries by then.
Hi, this is Benito. That also had Google Maps. So that's kind of the killer app that Allyn was talking about.
You're right. So killer app for the iPhone was Google Maps. It came with Google Maps,
yes.
Right? But then I think also Safari, the fact that you could use a tiny little screen in a browser and actually browse desktop websites was a big deal. Remember? You could tap it, it would zoom in.
Yeah, I think location, the personalization that came with something knowing your exact location was what drove adoption. Remember we were so excited. I don't know how old you are, Ben and Allyn, but
she knows how old I am, kids.
Solo, Moco, what was it? Social, mobile, local, blah, blah, blah. We were so high on that. And that was kind of the benefit of the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we're high on for VR. In AI, if I talk to Qualcomm, they're going to tell me about AI for antenna modulation for delivering 5G to the phone, right? That's important, right?
But that's one of the coolest things about AI is it is like computing in general is a very wide range of applications.
Infrastructure.
It can be, but it can also be. I use an AI expert system with coding, and that's really amazing. There are some definite uses for AI right now out of the box, whereas I don't see those
I'm arguing that AI is infrastructure, which is why I think it'll be necessary going forward.
Yeah,
it's the same as the internet in the sense that internet is infrastructure for our lives. Right. AI is infrastructure, whether you see it or you don't, right? There's AI algorithms handling a bunch of stuff on our Zoom meetings, and then when you look up on TikTok, and then when you go and drive your car. And AI is just a broad, it is such a broad term that applies to a lot of things, and people can disagree. And we're talking beyond generative AI, which is its own little subcategory. But yes, Stacey's absolutely right. It's infrastructure, absolutely.
All sorts of things.
It's been around for longer than you might realize.
Right.
I came out with a report on AI investor trends. It's in benparr.com. I'll have to plug it.
110 pages. Yes.
And one of the things I found when I was doing it was I did a report in college on AI in 2005, 2006.
Wow.
And I found when where the term AI was really first coined? It was a conference at Dartmouth in the 1950s. I was like, oh, yeah, this has been around for a long time.
Yeah, John McCarthy. We were, people of my age have been through more than one AI winter as well. We've watched AI be overhyped, and die a miserable death more than once. I think 2 or 3 AI winners we've gone through. So, but I don't think this is the same. I honestly don't. I am completely turned around on AI. I've become much more bullish on it since you last joined us, Stacey, because I've been able to use it in so many interesting and powerful ways. And I see with one of your slides in the deck, you show at slide 110, you show an image, AI-generated image. And absolutely, I mean, for image generation alone, AI has been fascinating. I've become, and I don't know if you're on this same train as I am, Ben, but I have become so bullish on AI that I'm, and much to my the dismay of many of my co-creators, I'm kind of saying just let AI have everything. Don't limit AI to uncopyrighted or free material. And actually, we're starting to see that a lot of news organizations are blocking AI scrapers. I think that training is really important. And I think I think AI should have access to everything. It's not stealing your information. It's learning something. And I think it's going to be so valuable. I don't want to see any limitations on it.
I could see the debate screaming the comments.
You could see. Oh, yeah.
Coming.
You know how much people hate that one. Especially creators hate that when I say that. You know.
Well, with valid justification based on some, when you see an AI image generator spit out a thing that still has the watermark. But
it's not. It's a little bit like the watermark, but it isn't. It's not Getty's watermark. You can tell that it ingested some Getty images, which by the way, Getty has put online.
Right.
I just think that here's why I say this. Look, I understand if you're a copyright holder, you're terrified, blah blah blah. But there is so much value societally to be gained from an AI that's smart, and there's so much to be lost from an AI that's hobbled. One of the stories this week is that AI has not been allowed to scrape things like the Washington Post and the New York Times, but right-wing news media has been welcoming AI scraping. And so what you're going to get is AIs that are trained on right-wing media, but not left-wing media. And I don't think that's good for anybody. And so I think it's a mistake to say what AI can read and not read. It's not. The New York Times lawsuit saying, oh, you're going to read the New York Times in an AI, in a chat GPT instead of on our page that's obvious nonsense. No one's going to do that. They're just trying to extract some money out of them.
As a creator, I don't think that's wrong. So first up, as someone who's created content, if you have created your content with the idea that it is for people and reading for people, right? And for a certain use case, like as a journalist, it's a service to my readers or whatever. I have an audience in mind. I think that's an important thing to you can't go back and change that contract, which is kind of what AI is. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to now use this thing that you built that's, still technically owned by you or your publication usually. And we're going to use it for this instead. I think your arguments about right-wing media is, going to allow it to be trained as opposed to left-wing media. I think there's a place for making that argument and then having people produce content for AI that is quality content because of the benefits to society or whatever the hell we want to argue. But I don't believe that saying I should give my content to a multi-billion-dollar company just for better training of something they're going to make money on is really
what if it weren't for them to make money? What if it were open source? I do agree.
Okay,
I don't want to see Google or Microsoft dominate, or OpenAI for that matter, dominate AI. I think it should be open source. But if you would be okay if it's somebody who's not going to make money on your content?
I would want someone to ask. I mean, it's kind of like someone walking into your house and being like, "Man, this place is super nice. Let me settle on in."
Well, interestingly,
I didn't invite you in.
The reason this is happening is because these companies are saying you have to ask, and OpenAI and Google and others are asking. This is from Originality AI, which is an Ontario-based AI detection startup via Wired magazine. Data collected in mid-January on about 40 top news sites shows that almost all of them use robots.txt or something like it to block AI web crawlers. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, the Atlantic, Bleacher Report. OpenAI's GPT bot is the most widely blocked crawler, but none of the top right-wing news sites surveyed, including Fox News, The Daily Caller, Breitbart, block any of the most prominent AI web scrapers. So they're actually explicitly saying, the sites that are blocking it are explicitly saying, no, you can't look. And to their credit, OpenAI and Google are honoring it. But you can see the problem from a societal point of view, even to that. So
yeah, well then what's to stop, I don't know, Microsoft or Google from saying, wow, we have a huge bias problem and it's partially because of our trading data is so biased. Let's go
we've seen that happen.
What I wondered about...
We've seen that happen with face recognition. I mean, face recognition is notoriously terrible on people of color because it's and this is just an inadvertency. This isn't even intentional, but it was trained mostly on white faces. So, of course, it's terrible on people of color. So, but you want to fix that. Or do you just want to abandon face recognition and say, well, we should just never use it?
Something I was curious about after reading that article was, is it specific to AI, or is it just that you have a set of websites that are trying to get as much traffic as they can more aggressively, and so they're just a lot more lenient with their robots text file versus the other sites?
I don't know. That's
I didn't
a good
know.
question.
See, it wasn't clarified in the article either.
Right.
So I don't know what.
Well, you can't determine the intention. You can just merely look at their robots.txt and see what they're doing. Right.
This is also deeply related to, and I know is to the state of media, which we talked about before we got on the show. Which, if media were doing really excellent right now, there'd be less issue. Media is suffering. We have seen lots of layoffs in the media world among our friends, and this might be a killer for some who have really slow margins or thin margins, or it might be a savior if they can get a payout from someone like an OpenAI or other. But long term, cat is out of the bag. People are going to have this is why there's Mistral and others that raise money, because they're building the open source version of this. You could run the large language model from your phone or on your own device. And eventually people are just going to have their own stuff running, and the 1,000 people, 100,000 people are not going to all ask for permission each and every single place.
Well, but really the interesting thing is, so you're talking about Mistral. I use that, and I use OpenAI's, Facebook's Llama, both of which are open models. But those models, those are the ones that are being trained on this giant database of internet material. When I put this on my local machine, I'm doing the fine tuning with various content and stuff, right? So it still has to be, these are still from big companies training giant models, very expensively, by the way.
I'm not going to be shocked if you just and I'm already seeing it more and more startups and others doing their own training of their own models, and it'll become cheaper.
Oh, that's interesting.
To go and
Isn't that interesting?
And it'll be easier and more effective to go and do.
Who does Mistral? Where does Mistral come from? That's a company, Mistral
France.
AI, right?
Yeah, they're based in France. Andreessen Horowitz backed them. They're not that old. They're less than a year old or so, but it's top researchers got together, and sometimes, they throw a lot of money at something like that. It doesn't work. They do seem to be working. It's providing a different kind of value for those who want to have more control for their large language model.
There are a couple. Go ahead.
So on the subject of that training at the edge and training with your own data sets, and this was the last thing I was expecting when I was in talks to move over to Phison. They're working on an AI thing.
Interesting.
And it was shockingly not gimmicky. My immediate assumption initially, wait, SSD companies working on AI, what are you guys doing? And then no, actually it was a completely legitimate use case. And there's okay, well, you have a GPU, it only has so much memory. How do you train a model that's too big to fit in the memory? Oh, you can add some SSDs to the system.
A swap file
that are meant for that.
Yeah.
Oh, look, in essence, right? But you have to. You can't just plug that in and hit go. It doesn't work that way. You have to develop the actual technology and the software and everything to work together. So
it really is a gold rush, isn't it?
Yeah, we teased it at CES. We're working on a thing. And
it's a gold rush.
For a legit purpose, yeah.
So I've used two different programs, and I would like to tell people about them. One is called Ollama at ollama.ai, and it's based on Facebook Meta's open AI model Llama 2. But you can download other models, including the Mistral models. I've set that up, and I've also played with something called GPT-4All from Nomic. Again, the idea is you download these models that are trained sometimes by big companies, sometimes by Mistral, sometimes by a variety of people. These are the various models you can download. You can show the screen. And then you would then either fine-tune it or create your own AI. One of the most popular things to do is to create a PDF reader that could summarize content for you. And I've been doing that locally, and it's great. It's really, it's kind of amazing what you can do, but you do still need these big models. I think that'll be very interesting. Do you think, Ben, actually, there's going to be a lot of people who will be training their own models eventually?
Oh, yeah. I'm already seeing more and more startups, with a lot less resources training their own models for very specific things. Already seeing people who train models, like they might use the basis of an open source model and they train it a lot more.
Right.
But they're training it on things like, the medical industry, for example. You're not going to go and use out of the box Chat GPT, OpenAI.
Well, you might use the large language model like Llama to do the basic language stuff. So somebody's generated that, and then you're going to fine tune it for a medical application.
Well, and you have to compartmentalize that for HIPAA. The data can't go the other way.
Can't go out of your.
Yep.
Right.
That's really interesting. Boy, I feel like AI is the thing that people should be focusing on right now, not AR. But as you say, that's a dumb distinction, Stacey. I'm making a silly, foolish.
Well, just saying AR versus AI is dumb.
It's not really the way it is. They go together. You're right. No, that's an excellent point. Yeah.
The next thing I want to see, which I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope somebody does it. If anybody's listening and is working on it, then more props to you. But we're getting pretty close to. If you've ever seen the movie Her, where they had the AI, you downloaded the software on the phone, and I want to see the thing where you train your own model. You plug in some piece of software on your desktop. You train your own model on all of your own stuff.
Right.
And you go, hey, what was that email from?
Yeah, that's the fine tuning.
I want to just do hey, what's that email from 5 years ago about this thing, and just find it.
I think that's going to happen in the next few months. I think we're there already, practically.
You can already use Rewind to do some of that stuff.
Are you going to get a Rewind? Are you going to do the Rewind?
I'm buying every single hardware AI
Did you buy
device.
Humane?
I have not bought Humane. I will do that. That one is a hard value prop.
Yeah.
Like the Rabbit R1 is a much
Did you get a Rabbit
device. I got a Rabbit.
I really wanted
I bought
a Rabbit.
Rewind pendant.
Yeah.
I will see. I'll get a Humane pin and go and try the whole thing out. I'll try every single one.
So all of these devices are designed to have, they still, I think, all phone home though, right? Nobody's running locally, especially the R1, which really doesn't even have any apps. It just phones Perplexity.
You can't run any of those locally.
Yeah, but it's adding the fine tuning from your life. Not so much Rabbit, but definitely Rewind.ai and the Humane AI pin. It's recording your experience, your exchanges, your experiences and stuff, and then adding that as a fine tuning to an existing LLM. To me, you're right. That's her. In fact, it was no accident, by the way, that ChatGPT, when they added an iOS app and an Android app, had one of the voices sounded surprisingly like Scarlett Johansson, like a very. They didn't call it.
It could just be she has an amazing voice.
Yeah. Hey, we got to take a break. This is a great conversation. Don't hold that thought, Allyn. I want to keep going, but I do have to take a break, or we will be going way too long. Our show today, we got a great panel, by the way. Stacey, it's great to have you back. I missed you. Welcome back. You and I are going to do the book group on February 8th, right?
We are.
That's the most depressing book I've ever read. I want to thank you for that.
Y'all, did we really need to do this one?
So depressing. I love Paolo Bacigalupi. I loved The Wind-Up Girl. His new one is The Water Knife. I haven't got to the end. I'm hoping that suddenly the sun will come out. It'll start raining. Everything will be beautiful, but maybe not. I don't know. It's a little grim. No, that's not going to happen, is it? Well, we'll talk about it February 8th in the club. That's going to be Stacey's book club. Maybe next time, can we choose a happy book? Just next time, please.
I put happy books on the things.
It's the people.
No one picks them.
It's the people.
It's the voice of the people.
The voice of the people. Ben Parr is the voice of AI. He is the author of a great book you should read, The AI Analyst. Co-founders. 8 years he's been doing AI at Octane AI. Great to have you. And, of course, Allyn Malventano now at Phison, which is just as easy to pronounce as Solidyne, but only a little bit harder than Intel. He's been in all three.
I am dragging the SSD industry into the future.
His next company will be Cyberdyne.
Cyberdyne. We thank you.
And then
all.
you might as well, I'll be working with Ben, and we'll just take over the world.
I thank you all three for being here. Our show today brought to you by NetSuite. Once your business gets to a certain size, the cracks start to emerge. You see this happen every time. Small business, everybody's name, no big deal. But as soon as you get to the point where did we hire you? Are you new? And then there's just too many people, too many manual processes to keep track of. This is If this is where you are or about to be, you should know three numbers: 37,000, 25, and 1. Okay? I'll explain. 37,000, that's the number of businesses that have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the number one cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, HR, and more. 25, that's how old NetSuite is. It turns 25 this year. That's pretty impressive. 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs. I bet you can guess the one. You're the one. Your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all your KPIs in one efficient system, a single source of truth. That's another one right there. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, improve margins, everything you need to grow all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, and it's absolutely free. netsuite.com/twit. That's netsuite.com/twit. Get your own KPI checklist, NETSUITE, netsuite.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Tech. Great conversation about AI. I'm like you kind of, Ben. I want to try all the AI things. I don't want to try, unlike you, I don't want to try any of the VR things. I got this close to buying the Vision Pro. I mean, I did the face scan, uploaded my prescription, and I got my finger hovering over the $3,500 button. Actually, it was more because I had to buy the $200 travel case. I had to buy the extra sweatband. I had to $99. I had to buy the glasses because I do need corrective lenses, $149. So I got it well over $4,000 before I was done. And then I said, no way. I said, I have an Oculus, I have a Meta Quest Pro that I spent $1,400 for. It's got a nice thin layer of dust on it in my office, collecting dust. I knew I would buy this, I would use it for a week, get all excited about it, and then it would just collect dust. I couldn't justify that. So unlike you, I'm not buying one of those.
So my point before the break,
yes,
which will parlay us into the rest of the topics, I'm sure, which
Please.
applies to both the vision-related things, the VR things, and the AI discussion we just had. As far as having a thing that's very powerful, like in your house, in your possession, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is all these technologies that were like, oh, well, this might never get here to this state where you can just have the thing in your house doing all of it. It's going to have to go to the cloud. Not necessarily, right? Like, I bought this 25 years ago. This is a smart media card for those who remember what they are. This is 2 meg.
Wait a minute. What? Wow. Wait a minute. That was like a memory card for what?
Smart media for cameras.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
For giants.
For giants. Look how big card, that is. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Look at how big that. Well, it was really thin, but okay. Yeah.
I had one of those. Yeah.
So that's 2 meg. A few years later, Sony made this little microvolt USB thing that was really tiny. That's 2 gig.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And then here's an M.2 2242, 2 terabytes.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
And that's across the span of 25 years.
Yeah.
So that's 1,000,000x.
It's kind of remarkable. I mean, we saw this with hard drives too, but it's really remarkable. And what I find fascinating is that there was a lot of concern early on that these would not be as reliable as spinning media. What's your experience? They seem like they're actually as reliable, if not more reliable.
As long as you understand what the caveat is, which is just for flash memory, there's a finite amount of times you can rewrite a spot on it.
But you got wear leveling. You've got all these technologies.
My car did not understand.
Yeah, and there's technologies to mitigate
I remember
that.
Woz coming onto the screensavers in about 2002, and he had a USB key around his neck, and he said, "This is 2 gigabytes. Everything I could ever want is on this."
Actually, it might have been this because it came with a little silicone pouch.
Yeah,
and a little lanyard.
It probably
thing.
was that. And I was thinking,
could have been.
Ooh, 2 gigabytes. And his whole life is around his neck. Now my iPhone, this has 512 gigabytes. Or some people even are getting the Vision Pro with a terabyte. Did you get a terabyte, Ben?
I did get a terabyte. I'm going to get the most amount of space.
Okay. Well, that's good. No, you're future-proofing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, but all these technologies that you would think have to use the broader internet and the cloud and has to be in a big server somewhere in another state, Not necessary,
No.
right? Just give it a few years. It's the same compute will be in your house.
Yeah.
I don't think the business models, like I would love that. And you're right. We totally could have computing do more locally, but the business models don't make sense because then companies can't control it to the extent that they want to and monetize it to the extent that they want to. Also, yeah, it's mostly business models, but also people have become less trained for it. I'm real cynical about this.
Yeah, Leo, I don't know if you have an article related to this for this week, or covered in recent weeks, but there's a big battle between the home cloud, where you take all your devices and have them, on your own server, versus using whatever the company's, cloud-based server is. For example, there's been a thermostat company in the news recently that was going after your home lab type. Someone made a plugin for I forget what the
Home Assistant. It was a
right?
For Home Assistant.
Yeah, there's people going after Home Assistant developers that are just for free reverse engineering the protocol and just making, hey, I just want to control my thermostat from my house if I have no internet. And apparently that's a thing that these companies are taking issue with.
The public is a little schizophrenic on this because on the one hand we talk a lot about privacy and we don't want these companies scraping our data, and we know that internet connected thermostat is of course sending that information to the company, which is then selling it off to somebody who for some reason wants to know how hot my house is. So on the one hand, we talk about a lot. We talk about, oh, this is a bad thing. But on the other hand, we really don't want to run these things at home. And I think
maybe
these markets are pretty brisk for things like iCloud and OneDrive and Dropbox and
I have some home lab things, right? I don't do Dropbox anymore so much. I have my own, Docker.
You have more storage than God. You're not.
Well,
you're not.
You're also way more
all
technically adept.
Well, here's a better example. Here's a better example that someone can even run on a Raspberry Pi in their own home with a Docker container. And that you've talked with Steve Gibson on Security Now a bunch about this, where you can have a Docker container that holds all your passwords.
Right.
On a very small, doesn't need a lot of storage. That's a completely reasonable thing, especially given all the data breaches you hear about. Right? That's a very private information.
You would think people would be interested in doing that, and our sponsor Bitwarden, among others, allows you to do that. I don't think a lot of people are. I think there are people like you,
People
Allyn.
do not want to. Yeah, they don't want to pie for everything.
I don't even do it, and I'll tell you why I don't do it. Because I think Bitwarden probably is better at securing that vault than I am. I'm much more likely to do some dumb thing with that vault, aren't I? Seriously.
Well, so the part of it where I don't want to call it a disagreement, but I have a Nest thermostat. I'm not relying on that thing. But if I did want to use Home Assistant and switch stuff over to my own for some functions, I should be able to do it. Right? I shouldn't be forced.
No, of course you should be able to do it. And that, I think my opinion, it's just also is related to right to repair, is companies should just go ahead and do it because 99% of their customers are not going to do it. So just let them do it. It looks good for you. And people are still going to do the convenient and easy thing. It's why it's so bizarre that Apple is being so malicious with the EU over its App Store when it knows perfectly well, even if there is a third-party app store available on the iPhone, that most iPhone users, like 99.9%, will never even know it exists, let alone use it.
So I have a theory about this.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
I think what's happening is they're not thinking today about the issue. They're thinking about the long-term implications. So think about, basically, my child doesn't pirate music because they never have had to, right? But I can pirate music because when I was growing
how.
up,
yes.
Really, right. And you had to, right?
Right.
That was how you got music. The kids today, when you're looking for cheap solutions or reliable solutions, and that's usually people who have less income and more time, so generally younger people, they'll train themselves to pull away from the traditional business models and use this stuff. And companies don't want to open that door. I don't think that's stupid of them.
Interesting. So Apple's concerned about... See, I always thought when you put a lot of anti-piracy protection on stuff, it teaches... This is my example. I know this isn't exactly applicable, but copy protection teaches people to be pirates. because it's only normal end users that are baffled by it. Pirates know perfectly well how to get around all this stuff. They're like Allyn. They know how to have all the storage and do all the things. But normal people who are thwarted by copy protection learn how to get around it. So the best answer, in fact, this is what the music industry finally came to in Apple, is not to have copy protection and just make it easy to buy music. And that's why your kid just buys music, because they don't know that there's other ways.
They don't buy music.
They don't even buy music.
They rent it. They rent it. They don't even buy it. They rent it because they don't know of any other way, right?
Yeah,
but you don't want to train people on how to get around stuff. So you're saying, Stacey, that by providing a third-party app store, Apple is teaching people that they can't get around it?
Well, what I'm saying is by leaving those avenues open, more and more people will see value in going around it. And then over time, the number of users of the legit app store reduces. And same thing with like Home Assistant or people. It's not so much the issue today. It's the people who are like, oh, I'm going to use Home Assistant. And then more and more people do it. And they make it easier. Home Assistant's getting better and better over time.
Yeah, just for people who don't know, including yours truly, Home Assistant is an open source home automation tool.
It is an open source home automation tool.
So this is like OpenHab or one of those. Nobody uses. You told me. You told me don't use.
Yeah, no one uses OpenHab.
Nobody uses it anymore.
Home Assistant's the way to go.
Okay.
If you're going to do it.
Yeah, I think though. By the way, anybody automating their home is already in the category of super geek. But that's just me.
You know.
Yeah,
did you take a lot of home automation out of your house, Stacey, when you didn't have to do it anymore?
I took the Madam A devices, so the Amazon Echo devices all left because they were the most annoying devices.
Yeah.
I kept the Google, and I'm still hoping they get their act together on their stuff. And I did eliminate a lot of the stupid gadgets that
you used to have a
didn't
faucet
work.
that you could talk to. Do you still have a faucet you can talk to?
So I still have a faucet that I could talk to, but that faucet only worked through Madam A, so now I can't talk to it.
Perfect.
That's a harder uninstallation process, Leo. It requires plumbing.
Right. So
I installed it myself. It wasn't so bad. But I like to do things.
Do you run Home Assistant now, Stacey, still?
No, I don't. The only thing I do is I have more home automation than the average bear, but it's mostly
Stacey,
just lights.
If you might remember, if you watched This Week in Google, her husband used to complain about how hard it was to open the blinds. Do you still have blinds you can talk to?
No one talks to the blinds. Theoretically, you could talk to the blinds, but everyone has forgotten the fact that they could talk to the blinds.
They pull the string attached to the blinds that opens them.
We still have a remote control.
Oh, you have a remote. That's okay.
This is reminding me my fiance. This is when I saw you like a year and a half back in. My fiance had a play premiere in Sonoma.
Yes.
Called Atlas the Lonely Gibbon. It's about a smart home going awry, and like it starts with the fridge exploding and goes through all sorts of stuff, and like the impact of like what if you have AI running things, but also the impact of like how that affects things like relationships. I just had to go and plug because I love my fiance, but also we are entering a world where these are going to be the conversations. And I think going back to Stacey's original point before, you have a free time as a kid, you're going to hack whatever thing you have availability to hack. Right now, you don't have the availability to hack on the iPhone.
Kids don't hack nothing no more. Kids don't even know how to type. Kids don't know
how
nothing.
To hack.
Kids are too busy playing the TikTok on their phone. They're not.
You want to see a kid hack something? Take TikTok off their phone.
Well,
see how they get it back on.
Yes.
That's all. Seriously. You just have to know what they want.
What they know how to do is hack mom and dad. Yeah, they hack the parents.
They'll learn how to pirate. By the way, complete aside, Leo, while we were having the conversation, I did make a Midjourney of you as a pirate. I put it in the show notes if you ever want to take a look.
Pirate Leo. No, I'll confess to having downloaded, I think, 90,000 songs on Napster back in the day.
Who didn't? That was around.
Yeah, who didn't?
Yeah.
And that's why. Yeah, by the way, Midjourney does not know what I look like. I just want to say. It is. I've had that problem.
It looks pretty close. If you
think
look
that looks
at
like
it.
me?
Close-ish.
Well,
It's
in the
close-ish.
upper right is John Cleese.
Yeah.
It's just an old fat guy, basically, with gray hair. I'm the generic old fat guy with big nose and gray hair. That's it right there. You might as well have just used that as the prompt. At least I got the hat right. Actually,
Did get the hat right.
somebody was asking me about my chess.com login because I used a AI for it of me, and it kind of from a distance it looks like me. I can't show it because I'm not logged in, but all right, I'll use this pirate somewhere. Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
Actually, I love
My gift.
Midjourney. I think playing with Midjourney is great. It's one of the pieces that made me kind of start to think, I want a smart AI. I want a good AI. And I don't really care if Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light, is pissed off that Midjourney can do a crappy painting like him. That just doesn't seem to me to be a societal problem. The heirs of George Carlin. Look, I understand. I support the heirs of George Carlin, who are very upset about this fake George Carlin comedy routine titled "I'm Glad I'm Dead." Okay, maybe that was a little offensive. It's not very funny, but it is. But for people who are George Carlin fans, maybe they're kind of happy. It came out a couple of weeks ago on YouTube channel. It's from a podcast called Dudesy. Will Sasso and Chad Kalkgren. They're being sued now by the estate of George Carlin. We have to draw a line in the sand, says daughter Kelly Carlin. Do you think they'll win this suit?
I feel like they have a fair argument.
Yeah, I really agree with them. I would sue in that case too.
I think they're going to lose.
I am not a legal expert.
Can you sue
all.
Rich Little for doing an impression of George Carlin?
That's different.
Is it?
So
It is.
legitimately, over the course of the next 2 years, we're going to start to get some answers to a lot of questions that are surrounding the legality of certain
From
things.
courts. From the courts.
From courts. It's going to take a while. Like, I don't expect major rulings or to be in effect this year. It'll take several years probably. In
You know
fact,
what I fear, though, Ben, is that we're going to get conflicting rulings because there's so many courts involved.
oh, for sure.
And
Supreme
so
Court.
you're going to get it's going to end up having to be, and then the Supreme Court's not going to really resolve this, I don't think. I think they're going to do a very constrained, well, in this one case, I don't know.
If there's lots of conflicting cases, the Supreme Court
They've got to resolve it. They've got to resolve
It's gonna be a thing that we really will have to figure out what is the right line and what is the right legal line, and this is complex stuff that we'll have to just get 4 lawyers to go and debate for a couple hours. I will watch that.
I will too, because I don't think there's even among our panelists there's no consensus at all.
Well, the other thing is remember too, we don't fully understand every aspect of the technology. AI, there was a story earlier this week, an AI that started it poisoned itself. It was essentially poisoned. It went rogue, and it was actually deceiving the people who had trained it and lying to them about its training. And they could not get it back on track for training at all, and so they had to abandon it. And that kind of thing is happening, and there was no real explanation yet from some researchers. So my whole point is this is all cutting edge stuff. There's amazing things you can do with AI. We do not fully understand every aspect of it. We do not fully understand where the legality of the things are going to go. And at a certain point, the AI is just going to decide to make things on its own without you saying anything. And then who is responsible then?
There's an interesting idea about from a legal perspective, making AI a separate legal class.
Yeah, I think that's what you'll have to do, because humans can do I can do a George Carlin impression. Humans can read your articles, Stacey, and then summarize them to somebody else, and those are all, I think we all accept, normal uses, transformative uses of content. You feel like it shouldn't be a machine. In fact, you're very specific. You shouldn't be a profit-making machine. You would say a nonprofit that's okay. It's going to be very hard. You're going to have to create new classes. I think you're right.
Well, and I mean, there's going to be a I mean, just on the content creation side, over time, if you have AI generating everything, it's going to devolve into crap, right? So you're going to have people in the mix somewhere, and you're going to have to
that's right.
pay them accordingly. So we're in this weird area where we're just ooh, let's arbitrage this and make all the money and gather everything we can.
Well, let me ask Ben, because you're trying to make money on AI. I think there's such potential for AI. I mean, if we really want her, or if we want AI to design chips, AI has already come up with interesting new medicines. It's very good at protein folding.
But those aren't LLMs that do that.
Well, whatever. Just generative AI of some kind. In fact, I think it's a mistake to say LLMs are different than GANs are different than. It's all generative AI, and all of them have to ingest human-created content. I agree with you, Stacey, that for an AI to be good, a human has to have input. But we get such societal benefit out of it. I mean, really, this is going to be a very bitter argument. I can tell already. But Ben, don't you think that's it? I think you might hobble AI. I think you might actually kill AI in the cradle by being too restrictive on what it can read.
This is the ultimate debate between, for those who know, E/ACC versus EA, effective altruism versus effective accelerationism, which, for those who don't know, is two camps. One being we should move as quickly as possible because AI could save lives, and every day you wait to train the AI is a life that didn't have to be lost, versus EA's, which is AI could destroy the entire planet, and so we should be very cautious because have you seen Terminator before?
Yeah. I'm not a doomer. And I think maybe that's gone away. I don't know. Elon Musk was one of the doomers.
No, it hasn't gone away.
All right.
No. It's less prominent as before, but there's still a lot absolutely there. It's just more underground, and I have those conversations with.
I'm an accelerationist. You might be surprised to hear. I was never a doomer because I thought that's just sci-fi, but I am now accelerationist. I believe, in fact, I might not even disagree with Larry Page, who says it's time for humans as a species to get out of the way of the next big thing.
They have merch for that. There's an effective accelerationist hat. I had to send you some.
I'm in that camp. I've been. The machines have won me over.
I think Leo may or may not be an AI. No one asks. I always find the answer. Well, this is
a good example. I'm a creator. Now, admittedly, I'm at the end of my career, but I have hundreds of thousands of videos online that could be used to train an AI. And in a year or two, we're not far off from a time when you could, the George Carlin's surprisingly good, when you would be able to create an AI Leo that looks just like this, maybe have a human on the other end typing in some content, but I could live forever as this created entity, and it doesn't bother me at all.
Leo even already has a pre-made avatar in the form of his digital self from the screensavers.
I do. I was a digital character actually on the site, on MSNBC's site. But even more, we have in our Discord, if you're a Club Twit member, there's a AI Leo who's been getting better and better, by the way. I don't know how he's getting better. I'm a little nervous.
So what are you going to let AI Leo host the show, and then
he did,
and then 20 years from now, AI Leo has hosted the show.
Yeah, that's just a matter of time. That's fine with me.
Leo's in his comfy chair sipping his cognac.
It's not even about me. It's about if an AI can create good content or to solve or cure cancer, why shouldn't we want that? As opposed to saying, well, no, I made this and I am the unique one and only, and you can't have me. That seems very selfish. Well, now go ahead.
For your case, Leo, well, obviously you should benefit from that if you like.
No, I don't care. I don't want money out of it. No. If it helps people and does, if it fulfills the mission that we created Twit to inform people about technology so they can use it, more power to it. I agree with you, Stacey. I don't want Google to be making money off of it. So maybe that's the difference.
Well, and what are the assurances you have? You're going to have to make some provisions for if you have an AI Leo for making sure it's still accurate, which means you need someone because of the type of job that you have.
Still need humans, yes.
You're going to have funding for that. So then AIU is still going to need to make money somehow to pay for the humans on the back end to check, like QA humans at a minimum.
Well, and that's, of course, OpenAI's argument was it got so expensive we couldn't be a nonprofit. We had to have a for-profit arm to foot the bill. What do you think of the... Okay, actually, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to ask you what you think of Nightshade, which is a tool designed to poison AI. Gives artists a fighting chance against AI. We're going to take a break and talk about that when we come back. Stacey Higginbotham, Ben Parr, Allyn Malventano, great to have you. The show today brought to you by Ecamm, and I know you all know Ecamm. We use Ecamm. So when I set up Twit back in the day, we have big fancy hardware, switchers and mixers and all this stuff, and costs millions of dollars, very expensive. And then along comes Micah Sargent, who does iOS today, all on his Mac using Ecamm. It's kind of amazing. The leading live streaming and video production studio built to run on your Mac. That's all. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, Ecamm is here to elevate your video production, from streaming and recording to podcasting to presenting to doing exactly what we do here at Twit. Ecamm Live is your all-in-one video tool, perfect for simplifying your workflow. Ecamm supports multiple cameras. It supports screen sharing. So, I'm watching it happen on iOS today. We'll switch to Rosemary. You'll switch to her screen. She'll switch to a phone she's holding, back to Micah. It's a live camera switcher that lets you and them direct their show in real time. You'll stand out from the crowd, too, with high-quality video. Oh, and all that lower third stuff we do, logos, titles, graphics, they all work in Ecamm. Ecamm supports it. It's built in. You can share your screen. You can drop in video clips. You can bring on interview guests. You can use a green screen. It works great with green screen, and so much more. Join the thousands of worldwide entrepreneurs, marketing professionals, podcasters, educators, musicians, and other Mac users. Rely on Ecamm Live daily. I mean, really, this transforms your ability to do video production anywhere, anytime. Try it out right now. Get a month free when you subscribe to any of Ecamm's plans. Ecamm, E-C-A-M-M, E-C-A-M-M, ecamm.com/twit. Don't forget to use the promo code TWIT at checkout so they know you saw it here. We are big believers in Ecamm, and I'll tell you, if I were starting all over again, boy, I would be using Ecamm. I absolutely would. Nightshade. This is an interesting product created by the University of Chicago. Lets artists poison their image data, making it useless or worse, even disruptive to AI model training, and actually screw up the model. Ben Zhao, the computer science teacher who led the project, compared it to putting hot sauce in your lunch so it doesn't get stolen from the workplace fridge. This must drive you crazy, Ben.
It doesn't drive me crazy. So, I am a person who sees both sides of everything here. Like, the answer probably between that whole debate of EACC versus EA is probably somewhere in the middle. I definitely tend to think that AI will be a large scale good in the world. However, we're going to see a lot of pain. We're seeing the pain now.
We saw that with the internet. We saw that with computers. This is what happens with disruptive technology. And for technology to be really valuable, it has to be disruptive. And I don't think preserving print newspapers is the right way to handle this problem. I don't think, Congress is now getting in the act trying to save AM radio. Sorry, it's over. and we should not be subsidizing it or forcing companies to subsidize it. It's over.
Time and transition do matter. You've got
you think it's so fast that we do have to kind of
this is the fastest I've ever seen any technological revolution. I sat down with I can't name one of the world's greatest investors and board members, and he's been around for many decades and never seen this quick of anything. And so there is something to we have the transition takes time. We can see where it's going. But it is painful. It's already painful for, people who need to rely on art or copywriting. And I already know friends and I already know people who have less work or have been laid off, or their consulting business is a lot less than it used to be. Obviously, there'll be new stuff and new things, but this is why the discussion of things like UBI has popped up, and why even like Sam Altman talks about UBI.
You're talking about universal basic income, so that because you'll be all out of work, everybody should get $1,000 a month from the big tech companies. I think Nightshade should be illegal. I think these guys should go to jail for poisoning AI data. That's what I think.
What? No.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I think that's like vandalism.
I'm going to go with Stacey on this one.
That's vandalism. You're vandalizing AI models.
This is, look, if someone wants to make go, Stacey.
Yeah, if you want to, it's basically to me, it's the equivalent of somebody who's walking behind you if you're recording like a TikTok video and flipping their middle finger up, right? Or like the guys who walk behind newscasters and like do something rude.
Yeah, and you're right.
It's legal.
It's legal, but it's rude. And more to the point, it doesn't do any
These
real
aren't
damage.
People,
this
Leo.
is doing
These are
real
multi-billion-dollar corporations.
Well, no, it doesn't care if it's multi-million-dollar or open source. It's just going to poison. One of the things it does, for instance, here's the Mona Lisa. What it does is it does a Nightshade version. It looks just like the real Mona Lisa. Maybe it's a little darker, but actually, to an AI, it looks like a cat. And so the AI,
this is so fascinating.
The AI starts
teaching people how the AIs see things and work.
It could take fewer than 100 poison samples to corrupt a stable diffusion prompt. So
all this is going to end up doing is they're just going to adapt and overcome.
Believe me, this isn't going to last 5 seconds. I agree with you. This is not really a threat. But if it were, they should go to jail. So Zhao says,
wow, I wouldn't go that far.
They should go to jail. This is vandalism.
Are we sure this is not an actual AI Leo who is all in favor of AI?
Vandalism. I'm just saying, we have the opportunity for a technology.
Leo's training his future AI properly.
Yeah, right.
To be like,
wow, this future AI is way more conservative than I really thought.
We have an opportunity to create something transformative that could be like fusion. You were saying before the show that if we come up with cold fusion, that's the kind of thing that could change everything. And of course it could. This AI has that kind of potential, I think. In fact, I might even say AI might invent cold fusion. You might be stopping cold fusion by turning the Mona Lisa into a cat.
Yeah, all the hot fusion guys are going to be, poisoning the data set with.
This is vandalism. Maybe they don't go to jail. Just a small fine.
What? No, this is the sort of thing. I mean, look at it like from a purely evolutionary, as an effective altruist, you should be like grateful. This is the sort of thing like that's going to make it bigger, better, and stronger. You're getting great insights into how something works. You're going to be able to prevent against it.
If you're really smart AI, you'd figure out how to avoid the Nightshade attack.
AI models have to learn and adapt and improve.
It's a hostile world out there. They have to learn to be smarter than humans. That's right.
That's actually one of the biggest issues right now, as I see it with AI, is that if your data set has some garbage in it, this is intentional garbage, but there's plenty of other content that is just like incorrect.
So that's a good point. Maybe this will just teach AI to know how to avoid garbage inputs. Yeah. Okay. All right. Never mind. You don't have to go to jail.
It's okay now.
It's okay. You're doing God's work.
I'm still not 100% convinced that you are not actually an AI promoting the AI agenda, which will be a thing that we have to actually question probably in the next couple of years or now.
Yeah.
And you don't want your AI developed in this like protected hothouse.
No, that's
this is
true.
the equivalent of a latchkey kid versus like a little helicopter parented child.
We don't want latchkey AI. We want helicopter parented AI. Oh no, we do want latchkey.
Yeah, you want the
we want resilient AI that knows how to put a TV dinner in and make dinner for itself. Is what you're saying.
It's just
maybe has some mental health issues.
Right. You either like put your kid in the bubble and they never get exposed to diseases, and then the moment they go into the real world, they get sick.
It's like AI
or you let them play in the mud.
Yeah, let them play in the mud. Let the AI eat mud. It's good for its ecosystem. Now you're talking. I get it. Joseph Cox at 404 Media. They review multiple examples of AI ripoff articles making their way into Google News. Google says, well, we don't pay that much attention to how the article was written by an AI or a human. So this has always been a problem, which is people see, I'm sure, Ben, you had articles from Mashable ripped off. Stacey, you had articles from Stacey on IoT ripped off, where somebody would just copy it and put it on their site and a few Google ads to make some money, right? But now they've got it. It's smarter. They have AI writing these things.
Yeah, and except I've run across some of these articles in the storage industry, and every one of them so far has been grossly wrong about some. Yeah, it states things as fact that are not actually fact. Like, no, that's not how that works, or it's totally wrong. Like,
Lead storage space researcher Taylor Swift said.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, don't knock Tay-Tay. She probably could do it if she wanted to. She probably could. It's funny that Twitter finally added some moderation when they were flooded with deepfake porn videos of Taylor Swift. Then they said, oh, no, we got to block it. So what they do, they don't have a lot of tools. So they just prevented anybody from searching for Taylor Swift.
What? They can't just let Grok figure that out? Don't they have their own AI?
You have an AI, use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is two separate stories. There's the story of like deepfakes becoming better thanks to AI, which is very scary, especially for women. I was like watching a TikTok where, when there's just a lot of guys who create very explicit things, and it doesn't really happen when you switch the genders around anywhere near as much. It's a real issue that's going to be a real problem. And these are the kind of things that we have to go and solve, which is, why we have the entire debate that we had a little bit before. The other story being like there's just no one to moderate anything over at X. And like it took them forever. Now I think they announced they're going to try to do something.
Yeah, they're going to build a facility in Austin. 100 moderators is not going to be enough. By the way, I just want to tell Elon, what are you, nuts? I don't know how many thousand people were doing it before, but that 100 is not going to be enough.
I mean, don't piss off Taylor Swift.
Actually, okay. So first of all, there's no way to stem this tide, right? You're going to see deep fakes of everybody soon, and there'll be no way to stop this. You can't. I mean, what are they going to just turn off search for everybody? Just say no. I mean, basically, you have to turn off Twitter. I feel for Taylor. I think it's terrible, but I think we just have to live with it, don't we?
You're advocating that there's no way to solve the problem of deepfake porn.
I don't think there is. I'm not advocating it. I'm not happy about it, but I don't think there is a way to solve it. Do you think there is?
There is absolutely a way to solve it.
Yes. You find out who's distributing it and who's creating it, and you punish them. Now, do we have an appetite for doing that? No. Is it scalable to do that? No.
We're not doing so well with
money?
CSAM, and we have a lot of infrastructure to fight CSAM.
We will not solve everything, right? But the penalties for child pornography are incredibly high.
They are, and they should be. And I guess you're right. You could make penalties for deepfake porn that would be equally high. That would be fine.
That'd be fine.
Is it?
Well, but now we're treading right back into the territory of the George Carlin thing, just in a different context.
I was like, there's a couple issues here, and that is, I mean, is it illegal or is it just
creepy,
distasteful,
creepy, ugly? Yeah.
Although for a guy who's advocating for putting saboteurs in jail, I would argue that your stance on this betrays a certain lack of.
I'm still working it out. I'm thinking. I feel bad for Taylor. I do. And I would feel bad for anybody this happened to. But I just don't know if you could stop it.
I disagree strongly on that one. Stacey's absolutely right. We have to go after these people and have some actual backbone to do that. And that's. I hope we start to get that, but there are technological ways to go after it too. So like example, there's a company called The Hive, thehive.ai, and they've been around for a long time, and they literally you can detect a penis, you can detect whatever thing, and it will just remove it in live video, among other stuff. There is technology to do things like this and to detect. And never underestimate the technological ability.
By the way, it's AI doing it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. This is how it is. The technology does exist, and the technology is getting better, and more of it is existing. You can convince companies like X, Twitter, whatever they call them, to implement some of this stuff, and you're going to see a large decrease in it. You do it across other places. The technology exists. The technology continue to exist. As long as there's bad stuff, there's always people building stuff to fight against the bad stuff. And there was always a technological solution in addition to the human one, which is let's put these people into jail or fine them.
I'm not against that. I agree. You should definitely do that.
Yeah, it might just be as simple as you just have to build a better AI. Which, ironically enough, here's an even better reason for the AI on the edge thing, because you might need this.
I should point out that there's a lot of not fake porn on Twitter, just doesn't feature famous people. So
yeah, but
you'd be able to distinguish between something that's...
There's technology to distinguish between whether it's AI or not AI. Harder problem? Yes. Is it doable? Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. Have any of you recently, in the past few months, gotten those texts that sounds like it's someone that's trying to pretend that they just found your number in their phone?
Lots of them every day.
That's all AI driven. You're going to need AI on the edge on your side to be able to filter that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you're just fighting AI with AI with that point.
It's AI all the way down, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
So really what AI...
that was our thinking, was eventually over time we would have battling bots.
Right.
Yeah.
Where, we're getting there.
Yeah, very close to it. I guess... Go ahead, Ben.
No, I can't. I have a story about battling bots. And I am not allowed to talk about it in the public. I will tell you all personally
okay,
after.
offline, we'll talk about it.
It involves governments. And oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
It kind of is like a little Terminator-y, where you got AI fighting AI and robots, and then the humans are just kind of hiding in trenches, staying away from it. I don't know if this is exactly the future we want.
But it's the future that will get us to strap on those face computers and just...
I can't wait
to cure all cancer and all diseases. Well, both branches exist, and they're probably going down both at the same time.
Everybody will live forever. Everybody will live forever, so that they could sit in their bunker with their goggles
avoiding
on,
AI,
avoiding the robots. Yes,
actually, there's a precedent for that, because isn't that exactly what happened with the internet? We were very bullish about it at first, but really it turned out to be everything that's good and bad about human beings is on the internet. Everything that's good and bad about us as human beings will be expressed through AI.
Except at the early part of the internet, you had a certain subset of people that were generally trying to use it more for good.
Yeah, but they lost.
They sort of lost to that. Well, now with the AI stuff, it's sort of flipped the other way, right? You're already seeing malicious or immoral uses for it taking grasp even before the real good stuff can catch up.
Well, stuff as Ben pointed out is happening faster than ever before, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Stacey, a final thought before I go to another break? Nah.
Nah.
Got nothing. I can't wait till February 8th when you and I are going to talk about the most depressing novel ever written. No, it's not. It's actually a vision of a kind of dystopian future. Hashtag Phoenix down the tubes. But it's very interesting. And he is a great writer. I really love Paolo Bacigalupi's stuff. So I look forward to that. That's going to be a club special, February 8th. What is it? Is it another one of those we start at 9 a.m. things?
We are changing the time, so we don't have the actual time.
Thank you,
Stacey.
I think it's going to
be 2 your time?
Oh.
Or 3?
Oh, hallelujah. I don't have to get up so early. We will get you the new time. Right now it says 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m.
Oh,
it should be prime time, shouldn't it? 95 people interested. It's not too late. You have time to read The Water Knife. I would. It's well written. It's fascinating. He's great at characterizations. But it's just kind of a gloomy future. But it may well be our future. So The Water Knife by Paolo Bacigalupi. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at your bookstore. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it at Audible. There's a very, very good Audible version. That's what I'm listening to. Look forward to that with you, Stacey. It's going to be so much fun. Now, there is one hitch in that get along. If you are not yet in Club Twit, you cannot participate. But there is a way out. Just join Club Twit. This, I think, as we go forward into 2024, it's become very clear, with media failing right and left, this is our future as a podcast network, is getting our listeners to support us. We don't need all of you. Yeah, you can get off the hook, but we need about 5 to 10%. We're right now about 2%. We're not really doing so well. So if you're not yet a Club Twit member, but you value what you hear on our programming, could you help us out? $7 a month. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get additional programming like the book club that you don't get anywhere else. You get access to the Discord. All of that for $7 a month. I think it's worth it, and you get the good feeling that you're supporting what we're doing. Twit.tv/ClubTwit. We are working on other less expensive ways. Right now, you can get any show, including this one, for $2.99 a month. But we're going to look at YouTube subscriptions, too, because I understand, everybody has, limits on how much they can spend. But if you can, we'd really appreciate it. And if you think we're worth more than $7 a month, you can also make it $10 if you want or more. We appreciate it. Twit.tv/ClubTwit. Our show today brought to you by ExpressVPN. It's common these days to overspend on streaming services. Well, since I started using ExpressVPN, I've saved so much every month by simply changing my online location. There are a lot of reasons to use a VPN, of course, for security, for privacy, but this is also valuable. You can watch Netflix in countries all over the world. If you already have a Netflix subscription, it's okay to do it. All you got to do is use ExpressVPN. They're in more than 90 countries. So you want to switch to another country to watch content from that country. You tap one button, you say, "Hey, I'm in London right now," and now you're watching Netflix England. You refresh the page and it shows up. You can even use ExpressVPN to get discounts because some services cost less in other countries. At less than $7 a month, ExpressVPN really pays for itself. It is security that you can put on your router, you can put it on your phone, you can put it on your computer. Very easy. I have it everywhere. When I want to switch it on, when I'm traveling, how many times you go to an airport and there's free Wi-Fi, right? But is it safe? No. Don't use ExpressVPN, and it is safe. It's a no-brainer. If you want to get more shows, if you want to be more secure, if you want to protect your privacy, and if you want to save money while you're at it, go to expressvpn.com/twit. When you do that, you get 3 months free with a 1-year plan. That's the best deal, less than $7 a month. expressvpn.com/twit to learn more. expressvpn.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of this show.
I've used them for years.
Yeah, is that your favorite too?
It is.
Yeah. All right. We kind of peripherally touched on it, but I think we really have to address this. Apple's response to the EU and their Digital Markets Act. The EU said that, in fact, Apple has got to open up their store. They've got the courts in the U.S. have also said, the Supreme Court last week said, we're not going to touch this case. So the courts have also told Apple, you can't stop people from putting a link in their app to a different payment system. So Apple's got to deal with this. But it seems like in every case, Apple's response has been Tim Sweeney has the best quote. He's, of course, the guy who sued at Epic to get them to open up the store so he could put Fortnite in an Epic store on the iPhone. He says, it's a devious new instance of malicious compliance. Well, I'd expect Sweeney to say that, but what do you guys think? Apple is going to charge 27% instead of 30% if you have a link to your own store. They're going to charge a commission. They are going to offer new app stores in the EU exclusively, but you'll still have to run your app by Apple and get approval. And if you sell it there, they're still going to take 27% or 15% if you... Actually, I think it's free for free apps up to the first million. But as a number of people have pointed out, that's not much of a solution. What if you have a freemium app like Fortnite, and all of a sudden you owe Apple $500,000 because you sold more than 1 million? That's a untenable situation. Mozilla has complained because, yeah, Apple says in the EU you can have a browser that doesn't use Safari's WebKit. You could have your own browser, but Mozilla says, well, great, that's a solution. So everywhere but the EU, we still have to make our Firefox browser, as always, using the Safari backend. But in the EU, we make a whole new browser using our backend. That doubles our costs. How have you helped us, Apple? Thoughts? Have I laid it out
EU's
accurately?
The EU's going to give some rulings that are not going to be favorable to Apple.
They're going to slap them down, you think?
There's interpretation, and it's going to be taken to EU court, and it's probably going to have more stuff for Apple to go and do. And look, EU's always a couple years ahead when it comes to things like this. This stuff will come stateside at a certain point. I don't know what the middle ground eventually is, because I can understand Apple from a business position and from a consumer position I can understand, but I can really understand the consumer position of on your computer you can sideload whatever you want and download things, and it's been like that since the beginning of time. So why can't you do that with your mobile device? So I
have to channel, because I think all of you will probably feel the same way, but I'm going to channel Alex Lindsay, who argues vehemently against what the EU is doing, saying it's Apple's platform. Apple says we want to preserve the security and privacy of our customers. They should be allowed to make whatever rules they want on their platform. And if you don't like it, suck it. Go put an app store on Android. You don't have to be on iPhone. And it's unfair of any company, even Epic, to say, oh, we want to use the iPhone without paying Apple. It's due. Apple made this platform. Plus, Alex makes the point, it's better for users if you don't have these different stores and different browsers. This is not as good an experience for users. There. Now
this is incredibly true.
Okay.
So I've been thinking about this a lot because, I used to be a telco reporter, and the whole idea of being a common carrier, and everybody wants to be a platform these days, right? And Apple is a true platform and has built something out. And once you get to a certain point, Amazon's another great example. Do you have so you could be a big platform and be compelling to people not forcing them, but they would want to use your platform because that's where the users are. That's what Apple's arguing. They're like, our platform is so amazing that people want to be on it, and that's why people should pay us a commission, right? Now, the true fact of the matter is Apple does a lot of things that are anti-competitive to keep people on their platform and to make their platform, to lock folks in, thus giving them that huge user base. So if you could have a truly competitive platform, would it have zero switching costs? What would that look like? Would that make something like charging these fees fair? I would say yes. If you had zero switching costs, it would. At a certain point, if you lock people in via maybe it's messaging, maybe it's all of the devices working only with other devices, however you want to look at it, does that make it anti-competitive? And then the EU makes sense trying to enforce these things, even though I'll admit its solutions are a pain in the ass.
There's a very famous Supreme Court decision from almost 50 years ago that opened up the Bell System network. Carter phone. Yeah. In fact, I remember seeing the Carter phone at the Computer History Museum. It's kind of a funky old device. But this was illegal. The Bell System had rules against putting third-party devices on their network. They said it's the same thing. It's about the security and privacy of, well, I don't know if they talked about privacy, but certainly it was about the security and the integrity of our network. We don't want customers coming along and putting any old device on the network. You couldn't even use your own phone. You had to rent it from Western Electric, from the Bell System. Supreme Court said, no, that's wrong. And they opened up the Bell system with Carter Phone. Carter Phone was allowed users to attach a two-way radio to their telephone. It was to be used in the Texas oil fields. I think they only sold a couple of thousand of them. But the decision changed everything. It opened up the Bell system. And it made it possible for you to buy your own phone, for instance, and put it on the phone's network. The Hush-a-phone.
I want a Hush-a-phone. That sounds great. Give me one of those.
This was another thing. AT&T objected to this small plastic snap-on, which would let business phone users. It was like you were talking into your shoe. Business
cone of silence.
Yeah, it was a cone of silence. It took the FCC 7 years. And they finally said, no, you can't put a Hush-a-phone on the phone. Carter Phone was a big deal, right, Stacey? That opened up the Bell network.
It did, to attach devices that were not owned by the Bell company. So, but those were physical devices on a physical network. So now
it's not a perfect analogy, but I think it's similar.
That's why I've been thinking about this a lot, because, one of the, if you're a platform, what are your rights and responsibilities to your users and to the people who come to meet your users on the platform? And it's real unclear. I wish I had a really cool opinion for you. They should go to jail, but I don't. I'm trying to work it out in my brain.
You'll never make it in talk radio, Stacey.
I know.
No, Stacey, this one is truly one where a nuanced opinion is probably the correct answer here. There was actually a great article that Steven Sinofsky wrote.
I was so surprised that Sinofsky, who was the much hated guy at Microsoft who ran the famous Windows 8. Put out an article in favor of Apple, saying Apple should not bow to the EU. Here's Sinofsky's article. Apple has done the right thing, and they shouldn't give in. My heart sank, he says, when I read the Digital Markets Act. I could feel the pain and struggle product teams felt in clinging to, at best, or unwinding at worst, the most substantial improvement in computing ever introduced, the iPhone. Do you agree with
this
Steven?
opinion surprised you?
Yeah, it kind of did. I mean,
doesn't he work for Andreessen Horowitz?
I don't know where he works nowadays. Does he? He's
been in VC for a long time.
Yeah, he's a venture capitalist and an Andreessen venture capitalist at that. But okay.
Yeah.
Technology positivity is the name of the game of over there.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, by the way. Thank you. Technology positivity. That's really good.
There's a difference here between what's best for users, and the answer is it's probably a mixed bag because you can make a real argument for both sides. And what's going to probably happen, which is that slowly there'll probably be some more prying up as more legal stuff comes up over and over and over again. It'll be a long time, though. And whether it's good or not, I have no idea. We will probably see that result at some point when you have the first side-loaded app store coming in and you start to see stuff and you start to see good and bad and who knows. But it's going to happen.
I find if you think about are we at the same point from a regulatory and a business perspective that we were in the 1800s with the railroads and the launch of electric networks and that sort of thing, where you need something like a public utilities commission. And I'm literally just wondering this because the economics in online services, software, that sort of thing, you have to be big. And you have to have basically monopoly positions or a duopoly position. So when you have that, you don't have the ability to compete in the way you would if you had, if everyone could play with these things. Even with startups, they just get bought by these big guys, right? And even if they weren't bought by these big guys and the FTC was like, hey, you can't have them, those companies would fail because they can't really go up easily against these monopolies. And so I wonder if we're going to have we need a much more kind of adversarial thing against regulators and digital businesses, which, I mean, we hate, but I really don't see a lot of options for us.
We're already seeing more of that. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go.
We're seeing more of that from the SEC, the FTC. Like, there is a lot more aggressive behavior. Now, some of the cases they've chosen, they have not won. They have not been great cases. Others, there's like clearly they're going to win or they're going to get something.
I'm rooting for them in some cases. For instance, Lena Khan of the FTC said it should be as easy to cancel an account as it is to create one, to which the cable companies responded, but people might cancel by accident if we make it too easy for them. I think in many cases, the regulators are fighting a good fight against companies that are rapacious, that are as good as evil, Here's Sinofsky has something interesting to say. He talks about a dichotomy in computing. The Microsoft Android way, where it's open, but as a result, security, privacy, abuse, fragility, and other problems of the PC show up on Android at a rate like the PC. But Steve Jobs had a vision for computing where it was enclosed and abstracted to make it safer, more reliable, more private, more secure, and you get all these benefits like better battery life, better accessibility, more consistency, ease of use. He says these attributes did not happen by accident. They were the process of design and architecture from the very start. They're the brand promise of the iPhone, just as much as the brand promise of Android and Windows, by extension, is openness, ubiquity, low price, and choice. These choices are not mutually compatible. You don't get both. Sinofsky writes, I know this is horrible to say, and everybody believes there's somehow malicious intent to lock people into a closed environment, or, on the Windows Android side, an unintentional incompetence that permits bad software to invade an ecosystem. Neither of these would be the case. Quite simply, there's a choice between engineering and architecting for one or the other. Openness or closed. Secure or, choice. Is that dichotomy accurate?
That's not true. You can build open, and open can be way more secure because there are more people assessing it. I mean, that's a talking point you encounter all the time when arguing with people like Steven Sinofsky. Now, I think there is a legitimate argument for usability. Like open
although
systems.
I have to point out that iOS is, in the early days, the idea of Macintosh was there's only one way to do anything. And there were very strong user guidelines, user interface guidelines. So everything was very consistent. But that's not the case with iOS. A lot of times, especially because they've gotten rid of all the affordances like the home button, a lot of times you'll look at an iOS app and go, I don't know what to do to get out of this, to back up. I'll just force close the app sometimes because I'm just like sitting there. I don't know what to do here. That's very common because the UI is not well specified. So I think in some ways iOS can be more confusing than Android. You use Android, right, Stacey? You're an Android user.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I use, mostly Android on my phone.
Yeah. You
choose
Android.
There's still enough consistency with the iOS iPhone experience across things that I'm like going back and forth in my brain on this one because, on an iPhone, my mom has never had to worry about viruses. She's had to worry about viruses on her computer. This is probably like the basic core argument that like Apple wants to make. And it's a legitimate argument. If you have more control over what goes onto an iPhone, you never once have to be like antivirus software. Never once have I ever had to think about that sort of thing.
No, that's a good point. Or really on the Mac. The Mac's more secure even than Windows and Android. Okay, so you think that's a straw man argument that Sinofsky's raising, Stacey?
I think security is a straw man argument, especially in the year of our Lord 2024.
How about you, Allyn? Where do you weigh in on this? You've been strangely silent.
I don't know.
That's, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the right answer.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm glad the EU exists. I'm glad they're putting pressure on these platforms to consider consumers. It's weird that we don't so much in the U.S. that the FTC and other consumer watchdogs like Congress are really not getting involved in this. I guess because we believe in the U.S. in the free market, and we kind of have this core belief that the market will solve this problem. The EU does not. I don't know. I think
the EU is more astute on the monopolies that are happening now,
or more, or less reluctant to regulate them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the EU's
but I mean, I point to the EU browser cookie pop-up that has wasted.
Oh my God, I know that annoys you, but
it's wasted billions of human hours clicking that thing that does nothing. You don't agree? I guess we've had this argument. We must have had this argument before.
It is annoying.
I'm sorry to trigger you. I don't mean to trigger you.
This little spastic, like, oh God, we're doing that
warning.
Right. If you're listening to this, you cannot see the spazzing that Stacey's doing.
It wouldn't be so bad if it didn't pop up in a slightly different form.
So annoying.
Every single place, especially on mobile.
And it
right?
accomplishes
It's like,
nothing.
There's the pop-up. And
it literally does nothing. It's like a silly button that,
Well,
the
website
EU
administrators, I have been to plenty of sites where they're just like, hey, we got to collect this. Or they could choose not to do it.
That's what we do on our site.
That's the other option.
Oh, you can't
not? Yeah, you're just like.
You mean choose not to collect cookies?
You can choose to collect only necessary ones, which is kind of the option that you could. I mean,
Don't you still have to say that though? Don't you still have to put a pop-up? I feel like there is a lot of pressure. You still
have to tell people that you're collecting necessary cookie data.
You don't
have to like force people to go through the next screen to pick which cookies. Right. You could just be like,
When you go to my personal website, there's a button. I collect no cookies, but there is a button that lets you choose light or dark, and it needs to remember what you chose. So it has a cookie. So I pop up an announcement that says, yeah, there's a cookie here to remember whether you chose light or dark. Okay? But I feel like I have to do that for EU visitors. It's extremely annoying.
So, yes, but you could also, I mean, again, this is an issue where if people really wanted to solve it, and only like for like that particular issue, right? If they didn't want to collect all this user data, they could create a way for you to remember like light or dark preferences without a cookie on browsers, but they don't.
But the cookie thing is also going to start to be not a thing as like Google's moving away from cookies entirely anyway. So what are we going to still be talking about cookies in 5 years?
Yes, because the EU is living in some sort of strange vacuum. I'm not against the DMA, and what the biggest issue for me with the DMA is interoperability, and this is the problem: is if you start to cast your net so wide, you cause a lot. If you could just say, for instance, and this is what Cory Doctorow is always saying, all we really want is the ability to move our data or interoperability. So if I use one message program or another, I can use whatever I choose. That's all we want, is some choice. And I think you can do that without compromising the privacy, security, or ease of use of your platform. Steven Sinofsky notwithstanding. Just that's all we want, interoperability, choice. Is that unreasonable? Maybe it is. I mean, maybe I'm choosing by simply buying the iPhone that I made the choice. That's your choice, Leo.
Yeah, if you want choice, buy more Android phones. Although I would argue that the OS choice is kind of a false one.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Cook tipped his hand when he told a reporter who said, well, are you going to open iMessages? He said, no, but you tell your mom to buy an iPhone.
I say we go back to floppy disks and Walkmans. Let's bring the 90s back, baby.
This is why we've got to bring back the 1880s with the regulatory commissions. I'm not kidding.
We didn't have antitrust in the 1880s, though, did we? Antitrust came later with the robber barons, right? Was it in the 20th century?
Was it like the 1880s?
I thought it was the 20th century. I don't know. All right. So you're saying
this
yes.
This is a question to ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. Hey, ChatGPT.
Oh my God.
ChatGPT is going to put you on a list.
When were the railroad barons? There were antitrust. I mean, when the Sherman Antitrust Act, I don't remember when that was.
That was in, I think, 1910, something like that. Oh, no, you're right. 1890.
1890s.
Good job.
Bam.
You win. Okay, you can hit me once.
I'm a trivia team captain.
Are you? Are you really? What's the name of your team?
The Prickly Bears.
See,
because my kid's name is Bear, or nickname is Bear, so we're the Prickly Bears.
Every trivia team has a silly name, and I love to find out. Anytime I'm on a trivia team, I just call them the Twits. It's very easy. I don't have to think twice on that. iPhone apps, and this is the other thing is, the iPhone isn't all that secure. iPhone apps secretly harvest data when they send you notifications. Security researchers at MISC have said apps like Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter are skirting Apple's privacy rules, the ATT, the application tracking, to collect user data through notifications. You don't have to be running the app. As soon as the notification pops up, they can collect all sorts of information about who you are, what kind of device you're using. And it's not bad actors. It's big actors who are doing this. A spokesperson for Meta and for LinkedIn, according to Gizmodo, categorically denied the data is used for advertising or other inappropriate purposes. It's only used to ensure notifications work properly.
Well, I think the idea is that because there's plenty of apps where if you're actively using it on the same platform but signed in on another device or a PC or whatnot, that it won't pop up a notification on your phone while you're.
I turn off all notifications. I don't want to see them. Yeah.
Oh, there's a tail.
Whose tail was that? Do you have a raccoon? Oh, no. You have a small... a very pretty cat.
A small fur baby.
Yes. Very pretty.
Oh. Yes.
We love having pets through here.
So I see what utility there could be for that, but at the same time, yes, the Facebook would have to know that, that person's iPhone doesn't need to get the notification if they're also on their iPad.
So what happens is when you dismiss the notification, you're sending a signal to the app, which now the app has permission to send all your device information back. Like Leo clicked it. So, by the way, here's his phone number. Here's his IMEI. Here's his kind of iPhone. Here's his location. Just, we had to know this because he clicked it. Anyway.
I mean, didn't they already know that? Like,
well, you know who knew that was the NSA.
Oh, here we go.
Now, you've been an intelligence officer, Allyn Malventano. So you probably were not surprised when the NSA finally admitted they didn't want to. But Ron Wyden was holding up the appointment for the next NSA director. So General Nakasone, I should say. What is it? It's the same name as the Die Hard company, right? Nakasone. General Nakasone sent a letter to Wyden saying, okay, I want to retire, so please. Yes, we do, in fact, buy and use various types of commercially available metadata for our foreign intelligence and cybersecurity missions. Yes, including data related to entirely domestic internet communications. So now we know. They do collect all this data. Are you surprised?
Well, that part that said entirely domestic, I don't think appeared in the actual letter from the NSA because I was reading through it.
Oh, I'm seeing it. It's in a quote in the New York Times article.
Maybe. I can give you my perspective because I used to work there.
You're an intelligence, right? Yeah, you're an intelligence agent.
I used to do this.
Yes.
Okay. So they have rules. Their mandate is foreign intelligence. They're not supposed to be after the U.S. people.
Which is why domestic would be a big deal.
Right. Now, I will say this. Having had to work there and deal with that type of information, trust me, it makes the job harder. The fact that there is the potential that there's U.S. people information in there, right? Because the issue is if you have somebody in the U.S. and they're talking to somebody that's foreign and you're trying to surveil the foreign side of it, then you end up potentially with the other half of the conversation. That's like the other end, right?
Here's the letter from General Nakasone.
Yeah.
Dear Director Haynes, the Honorable Director Haynes, Director of National Intelligence. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. You're right. This is from Ron Wyden. So that's I get what you're saying.
Right.
So let me see if I can find. Here's the response. Okay. Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
I was
looking
at
scroll down.
Yeah, scroll down. This is now addressed to Senator Wyden from, let me just look at the bottom, Ronald S. Moultrie, who is somebody. He's part of the DNI, I guess. Following up on the letters regarding the Department of Defense's potential providing you with a below redacted answer to a question I answered to you in 2021.
Well, actually, if you scroll up a little, it's the reply from Nakasone.
Oh, God, man. This is all in here. Okay.
Yeah. We don't need to go all the way into reading entire pages.
My God, what if we had an AI summarize this?
I wish I had an AI now. DOD components require access and use information.
Here's the perspective I can offer.
Yeah.
Here's the perspective I can offer. So, having worked here and having seen plenty of stories over the years, even some of which we've talked about on Twit, even dating back to when we got the most epic spit take on Twit of all time from Leo, when he learned that I used to work for the NSA in the middle of...
I didn't know that, actually, until you told me. I thought you merely were a submariner. I didn't know you were also an NSA...
As a man of many talents.
You were a contractor, though, not an employee.
It was a DOD... Well, the NSA contracts the military to have...
So you were working with the Navy...
Yeah.
On loan to the NSA.
Correct. Okay. So whenever these stories come about, usually the gist of it is, and usually why I've learned that there's so much hesitation in even the NSA saying anything, is that if you look at the two stories, the different perspectives, there's a dividing line, right? Even the title of the article is going far in the one side. Hey, NSA's getting all you U.S. person information, right?
Okay, good. All right.
Now, I can speak from the other side, right? If there was a magical way to make it so that the NSA could do their job of the foreign surveillance and not get any single word or bit of information from the U.S. people, I guarantee you they would hit that button, because it makes the job so much harder, right? We don't want to know what's in your email, like Leo, right? We want to know what the foreign people that were potentially plotting and doing, all the reasons why you would need to have a foreign intelligence program, right, to protect the United States, right? That's the job that they have to do, all those people that are still working there. So, yeah, like we don't want the other side of the conversation, but sometimes you don't have a choice but to get it in the act of doing the surveillance. And if that does happen, then you have to do a bunch of extra steps required by law, as like described in, from Congress. This comes down. This is how you're going to do your job, NSA. And they have to make sure that all that stuff is excluded or even purged from databases, or, by whatever means necessary to make sure that that information either is gone or doesn't go out, any of those things, right? They're basically, when you get right down to it, it's a job that's almost impossible to do without pissing somebody off on either side of the argument.
Nakasone said specifically, and I will read from his letter specifically, the NSA does not buy or use location data collected from phones known to be used in the United States, either with or without a court order. He says this categorically. Right. Similarly, the NSA does not buy or use location data collected from automobile telematics systems from vehicles known to be used in the United States. The NSA does buy and use commercially available net flow, that's metadata, non-content data, related, here's the smoking gun, to wholly domestic internet communications and internet communications, where one side of the communication is a U.S. internet protocol address and the other is abroad. And they've always said this. We have communications when somebody's communicating outside the U.S. from inside the U.S.
Right. Now, notice that the last part of that sentence was conveniently omitted from the other.
Yeah, you're right.
The people making the other point, right?
Yeah.
Like they're pretty clear. They're like, look, because the reality is they don't want the other info, right? They're not going to spend money to get info that's only U.S. people because they can't use it anyway.
So I know you, Allyn, and I know you're a good guy. And I trust you. And you no longer work for the Defense Department or intelligence agencies. You're a private individual. You're gonna. You're somebody who we trust as a geek. You understand our concerns, and you feel fully confident that Nakasone is not misleading Ron Wyden, that this is an accurate representation, and that they are, in fact, they don't want domestic communications.
everything represented in that letter aligns exactly with my experience having to actually like punch the clock doing that work.
I trust you. I actually trust you more than I do Edward Snowden. I mean, if you say that's the case, I believe you.
Well, no, listen, he had a point though. Edward Snowden had a point, which we talked about in Twit. I don't know how many hundreds of twits ago now.
10 years ago or something.
Right?
Yeah.
But there was a case where, okay, so we just said that, they can have this collection where if one side's foreign, the other side's U.S. Well, that we learned through the Snowden, documents and stuff that he released was that, hey, there's people in the org that could potentially see both sides of that actually shouldn't be able to, right? Because there's supposed to be procedures in place to prevent that sort of thing from happening, right? And there was apparently a gaping hole in those procedures, and that's what Snowden, if anything, I'm kind of happy that did happen because it was a problem, right? It kind of undermined all of the work that I was doing. Like I had to make sure nobody was doing searches on any U.S. person's names or any of this other stuff. And to know that there was just an IT guy up at the top of the IT stack there that could just run a query and nobody would know the wiser, that's a problem. It needed to be fixed.
Well, and also to be fair, it's not part of the NSA or the CIA's charter to spy on Americans on American soil. But for that, we have the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. And they
buy data too.
Yeah, and I do believe they do buy location data. They buy metadata. They may even buy content data. They buy whatever data brokers will sell. Right?
I mean, they have whatever set of rules they're required.
All of this is legal. In fact, that's one of the things Nakasone says is it's legal. It's, we only do what's legal, and we can't spy on domestic, but the information we get is legally obtained. We don't need a warrant to get that because of data brokers. Actually, it's been my contention. Now, maybe you want to weigh in on this, that one of the reasons we don't regulate data brokers, which I think all Americans who are informed about them would like us to do, is because Congress is periodically told sub rosa that the law enforcement agencies would prefer they do not shut down the data brokers because they're a valuable source of information. Yes?
I'm personally not thrilled with the whole data broker thing.
Yeah, nobody is.
That piece of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But Congress refuses to do anything about it.
Right.
And I think that's probably at the behest of law enforcement.
Yeah. My personal take on that is that the whole NSA story, this whole thing shouldn't have even had to happen because the whole data broker thing shouldn't even exist in the first place.
So instead of blaming the NSA or casting stones at the NSA, let's shut down the data brokers. Right? Anybody disagree with that one?
No, I don't think you will find a normal person, and maybe even Steven Stanowski would agree that data brokers are a problem. Although, actually, here's what I'm going to make a super convoluted argument. The existence of data brokers and the purchasing of consumer data keeps a lot of apps you might enjoy free and available for you to use.
There's a whole ecosystem. You're right. No, that's true. I mean, we've often said the same thing about consumer credit reporting agencies like Experian and Equifax and TransUnion. Ugh, creepy. But honestly, if they didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to ever get a loan or rent a home or anything, rent an apartment or anything.
Well, you would there's actually a whole bunch of companies using AI to establish like payback records for people. Anyway.
Maybe we don't need them anymore.
Something like that would exist.
Right. It has to.
And Experian and stuff, they're data brokers.
Right.
They're
right. All right. Let's take a break, and we can get a few final thoughts in with our wonderful panel. Really appreciate it. All three of you being here. It's kind of ironic. The name of our next sponsor is Panoptica. This episode is brought to you by Panoptica. Panoptica is Cisco Cloud's application security solution, which provides end-to-end lifecycle protection for cloud-native application environments. It empowers organizations to safeguard their APIs, serverless functions, containers, and Kubernetes environments. Panoptica ensures comprehensive cloud security, compliance, and monitoring at scale offering deep visibility, contextual risk assessments, and actionable remediation insights for all your cloud assets. Powered by graph-based technology, Panoptica's attack path engine prioritizes and offers dynamic remediation for vulnerable attack vectors, helping security teams quickly identify and remediate potential risks across cloud infrastructures. A unified cloud-native security platform minimizes gaps from multiple solutions, providing centralized management and reducing non-critical vulnerabilities from fragmented systems. Panoptica utilizes advanced attack path analysis, root cause analysis, and dynamic remediation techniques to reveal potential risks from an attacker's viewpoint. This approach identifies new and known risks, emphasizing critical attack paths and their potential impact. This insight's unique and difficult to glean from other sources of security telemetry, such as network firewalls. Get more information on Panoptica's website. It's panoptica.app. More details on Panoptica's website, panoptica.app. And we thank them so much for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun this week on Twit, and we've prepared a little movie to show you what you might have missed.
I'm literally talking to you from the Framework Laptop 16 right now. This is the touchpad for the machine that I literally pulled off the laptop in front of me, like right now. Here's one of the spacers. Let me rip off the keyboard too.
Oh my goodness.
Yank.
He's disassembling it right in front of us.
Previously on Twit. Tech News Weekly.
You can replace the GPU on this machine, and you can do it in 2 minutes. The idea is you buy a laptop from them and you have a future-proof laptop.
This Week in Space.
You're thinking about renewable energy, you think about solar panels, you put them where the sun is always shining, and then you beam that to Earth. It seems like so beneficial, and yet here it is 2024, and we still don't have this stuff.
The problem is cost. All of a sudden, in just less than 10 years, it has been proven by Starlink, by OneWeb, by Kuiper System, that you can make space systems super cheap.
Mac Break Weekly.
We have a big birthday to celebrate. We're going to see if we can boot this 40-year-old Macintosh. Uh-oh. Is that a sad Mac?
It's not seeing the disc.
Once you get the case open, let's look inside. You were never, ever intended to do what we're doing, which is open this thing up.
Right.
Steve, in fact, designed it that way. But nevertheless, he got the designers to sign the case.
All artists signed their work.
Windows Weekly.
Microsoft announced and released Copilot Pro, and I'm surprised by how good this is.
It's good for
like
your,
it's actually
your thumbnail images. Look at this. This Halo image is incredible.
Yeah. The prompt for that did not say anything like, be as provocative as possible and please offend Americans and religious people. And it popped that out on its own. I didn't ask for that.
Twit. Great tech news and analysis every week.
Yeah. I like. If you didn't see it, it basically created the Last Supper with Master Chief from Halo, where Jesus would be. So, and then an American flag, but instead of stars, it had French fleur-de-lis on it. So I don't know what the AI was hallucinating, but it was pretty wild. A lot of fun on our shows this week.
Nirav Patel happened to swing by the Phison suite at CES and personally broke down a framework right in front of us, which is pretty impressive to see.
So yeah. I had an order for that 16, Framework 16, and with the AMD processor. And I canceled it because I spent so much on my M3 MacBook Pro. And I thought, do I really need another Linux laptop? But I love my Framework 13. I really think it's very impressive. And I love the idea that you can upgrade it.
Yeah, it really was impressive, especially with the plug and play aspect of it, where he just broke down the
Were those magnets?
Same thing that was just.
There was no screws. It was all magnets.
I think it's magnets and like a little bit of like a clippy kind of action to it, but yeah, there's a lot of magnets.
That's kind of amazing. Yeah, because
things kind of slide in. Like it's not like if it would just if you dropped it, it probably wouldn't just disassemble immediately.
Early reviews on it kind of backed my decision not to buy it. Apparently, there's some performance issues and so forth, but I'm sure they'll fix those. I like Framework a lot. I think they deserve success. Frame.work. Yeah, you could just take it apart and more importantly, upgrade it. Have you, Ben Parr, played the new Pal World?
I am going to do that shortly. I have watched a couple videos. I really want to go and play.
It's Pokemon with guns. And in fact,
Pokemon with guns.
So much so that the Nintendo Corporation is suing them, saying it's a little too much Pokemon with guns. The idea is
didn't someone
go ahead?
Didn't someone make someone made a mod for it?
They put actual Pokemon in it. The idea is you're running around and you have a ball. It looks a little bit like a Pokeball that you throw to capture your pals. But apparently you can also capture weapons, which, if you ask me, is all that Pokemon was missing.
Well, this game has aspects that I think people have wanted in the like Pokemon games currently. Like, it has some aspects of like the Minecraft building process. You can build your own space. You can have your own essential farm.
I can't wait to play this. This looks like a great
And this is one of the fastest growing games ever.
Huge.
Got to 5 million downloads in a week, which is insane. And it's the number one game on Steam because of this. Now, obviously, there's some of these things where it's clear
that's just like Pokemon, right there. That evolution.
Some of them look too much like they're Pokemon, and you can make the argument actually it's a sheep, and of course Pokemon go based off of real animals, and so it'll be an interesting case. I feel like there's some where you really can't argue they took a little bit from, but why can't Game Freak, the creators, make a game like this? They don't have to have the guns, but have the open world stuff and have the deeper interaction. That would be fantastic.
It looks like there's all sorts of kind of Minecraft-y style automations, and it really looks like a great game. I'm not surprised it's done very well. Pal World, it's called. What do you think, Benito? Have you started playing it?
I have not, but I kind of also wonder if this game would have even been big if it wasn't for the controversy.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, talk about the Streisand effect. Nintendo going after him just really solidifies the whole thing. Maybe they just want a little, a fee of some kind.
No, not Nintendo.
Fee.
Nintendo is
they don't go along with that. Yeah.
Get sued, make bank.
Yeah. All right.
This is going to be an interesting test of look and feel. What's the threshold?
PC and Xbox, although The Verge says don't get the Xbox version. It's vastly inferior. So get it on Steam and play it on your Windows gaming PC. Pal World. Bad news for Beeper. I kind of think we saw this coming. The company, which was founded by the former Pebble founder, Eric Maciejowski, has decided to give it up on trying to duplicate Apple's iMessages on Android. Apple temporarily banned Macs used as bridges to Android devices. So this was kind of the end of the line for Beeper. And I guess in this case, I don't really think there's much of a loss, right? I wish Apple would open messages. I understand why, for commercial reasons, they're never going to do that.
They will eventually.
You think they'll have to?
They're not have to. There has been that discussion. You could lock some more people into an ecosystem, or they might have to. I think it will happen down the line. I do think that Beeper tried over. It was always going to happen. You're trying to force a platform to do something they don't want to do, you're going to go and fail. And the other result too is and look, I use Beeper, but
do you? Did you take it off? I removed it as soon as I saw all this. I thought
I removed iMessage because the people are getting locked out. And Apple can do whatever they want, and I'd like to not be locked out.
But it's not. Is it a better messaging program than say WhatsApp or Telegram?
Well, it's better to put everything together because I have Signal, I have WhatsApp, I have iMessage, I have LinkedIn messages, I have X messages or Twitter messages. It's nice to have the idea of everything all in one place where I don't have to go look at everything. But the reliability is still an issue. And I hope the Beeper people are listening. I've had enough times when I've tried to send a message and it just won't actually send. And it was over Signal or over Slack and the Beeper, and it didn't send. And, stuff that I wanted to have happen didn't happen with my team or with other people. And so now I'm I can't rely on Beeper to send the things out. And look, I understand, it's really hard to work with a lot of these different systems and all that, but that's the bar, right? You've got to be able to send messages and receive messages on the platforms that you support.
This sounds so. It's just blast from the past. Trillion, pigeon.
That's a blast of the past.
I just want one thing to rule them all, to talk on all the things because nobody wants to just settle on one thing. So I just need a Swiss Army knife.
So
things.
Automatic, the folks who do WordPress bought something called Texts. Plural.
Yes, I've tried them too.
I find it annoying. I actually don't want all these things in one interface, maybe because it's just not a great interface. But it does do that. It doesn't do Apple. I guess it does do iMessages.
It does do iMessages.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens long term here. Like, there is a real desire because there are so many messaging apps, and I'm in groups on every single messaging
it's so
app.
frustrating. I agree.
But you just have to have the reliability of you send a message that it actually sends, and if it doesn't send, it clearly lets you know, hey, this didn't send. Please try again.
Stacey, former telecommunications reporter, is RCS going to change all this? You think
Apple's adoption of RCS?
Apple's going to do RCS. Google's been pushing RCS. It's an open standard, the rich communication.
I think it'll solve some of it won't solve we all have multiple platforms. It won't solve, I use multiple platforms to communicate with different people, but it will solve things like when my friend sends me a video from her iPhone, it's to my Android phone, it's this big and grainy.
It'd be nice if we could all use whatever messaging platform we want and have a protocol like RCS be available on all of them so that we could communicate with people. Seems like.
Especially if it offered end-to-end encryption.
Which it does, right? Or no?
I don't think that's a feature of RCS.
I think Google wants it to be. I don't know if it is yet. It might be implementation
I don't know if it's
specific.
I don't know if
no,
it's
implementation specific. I think you're right. Yeah. It's just a protocol. You can, if you want to, encrypt it. And I think Google does, or intends to, anyway. Finally, some good news if you don't like swatting. And who does like swatting? Well, apparently this California teenager, Tor Swats, liked swatting, but now he's in jail, going to be extradited to felony, and even though he's a minor, he will be tried as an adult. Wired, which I think with unusual caution, did not reveal his real name because he is 17 years old. But he, according to sources familiar with the investigation, swatted hundreds of people. He was like the king of swatting, apparently. Swatting, as you may or may not know, but probably should know, is when a fake call is made to law enforcement. We've been swatted. Somebody called the Petaluma Police Department and said, I am holding hostages inside the Twit studios. I've planted bombs all over the studios, and I'm going to kill myself. Goodbye. And then, of course, we were lucky. The Petaluma police were smart enough to go, sure, kid. But they came over and they actually brought in, at great expense, bomb sniffing dogs, and we had to evacuate the studio, and they went all over the studio. Members of Congress have been swatted. Judges trying President Trump have been swatted. The director,
Secretaries of State.
Yep, CISA directory. Yeah, I mean it's a nasty thing. Now, I don't think this one kid did that, all of it, but it's probably good if he does go to jail and does do some time as maybe a warning that this is not a game, right?
Why are they trying him as an adult? Is it because if they tried him as a juvenile, he wouldn't get jailed?
He'd be out at 18, or it's lighter. You got to send a message. This is one where I have no sympathy of any kind, way, shape, or form. We got to throw the book at the people who are doing this. This is it's insane that people are thinking, we should waste our valuable law enforcement and health and services because I do not like some of the political statements of the other side, or I do not like this person, or this person reject. Throw the book at them. Throw all the books at them.
This person is not doing it for political reasons. It's
he's just a jerky
kid. For a prank. Yeah, they're like, I have power in this situation. Look, I can't.
But there are people doing it for political reasons.
Yes,
there are people doing it for
that's true.
And we don't actually know for sure. The kid may have some political, in addition to everything else. Obviously, the power thing. This is just a behavior that has to be punished heavily to stop it, because people feel like that if you are behind the internet and you can modulate your voice, that you are, free
well,
from
they never caught
consequences.
the person who swatted us. I listened to the recording of it. It's kind of chilling.
It's not just the use of resources or the inconvenience. There's a risk of death.
Absolutely,
right?
and there have been deaths, accidental deaths,
right? Exactly,
in swatting. So it is a very dangerous, dumb thing to do. Now, I agree. Maybe he shouldn't be tried as an adult. This is just Florida state law. It's 4 felonies, and the Florida state law does allow him to be tried as an adult, and the prosecutor is going to do that. The way it came about is interesting. He apparently was swatting Twitch streamers. That was his favorite thing to do. Have you seen that? Benito used to work at Twitch.
Yes, this was a very common occurrence.
It's a problem. You'd be live on the air streaming, and police would come storming in. So a number of prominent Twitchers hired a private investigator, Brad Caffrose Dennis. He'd been hunting this kid for 2 years, which means the kid started doing this like when he was 15. Caffrose Dennis says, "It's a beautiful day. I'm very relieved. Tor will no longer be able to conduct his reign of terror." He swatted schools as well as Twitch streamers, public officials. According to Dennis, in January of last year, he handed evidence to the FBI special agents in charge of the case. That information was used in subpoenas sent to YouTube and Discord. And I guess they tracked the kid down.
Would watch that movie.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? I mean, it took them a while.
It'd probably be a really boring movie. I mean, I'm wondering how they did it. I'm just thinking about what is the back end? How do you track it? Do you just look at server logs for who was watching?
So he sent them the information. They sent out subpoenas. They figured out who he was by July of last year. And then at that time executed a search warrant, seized his devices. But the FBI isn't talking, and neither is the Florida district attorney.
I mean, you're making phone calls. It's... there's ways.
There's ways to figure out what you're doing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He used a voice over IP number. That's one of the ways they can keep it anonymous, right?
Well, within reason, obviously, because they caught him.
Yeah. The individual's calls to Washington schools in May allegedly affected 18,000 students, cost taxpayers $271,000 in lost instructional time. I mean, there's a cost. It's a significant cost, and
the kid's really lucky that apparently not a single
killed.
One of those swats resulted in a death.
Yeah. Anyway, so I hope you all pay attention. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not a joke. Rick Scott, a senator from Florida, said, "We must send a message to the cowards behind these calls. This isn't a joke. It's a crime." Scott was, by the way, swatted in December.
Just ordering 20 pizzas or something, please.
Yeah, just order some pizzas. Do it like we did back in the day. Just order some pizzas. It's fine. No, don't do that either. I hope this does get rid of this problem, but I doubt it will. I feel like it's going to continue. Stacey, do you want to say something?
No.
Good. In that case, go get a waffle because we're done, ladies and gentlemen. Stacey Higginbotham, I would plug your website. I would plug your podcast.
I have something to plug that your audience may care about.
Woohoo!
Can I plug it?
Yes.
So February 2nd is the deadline for anybody who's interested to submit a comment to the Federal Trade Commission on users' right to repair.
Oh, please do this. Yes.
You can tell them a story. You can just say, hey, we would love it if you would, make a rule forcing or even just enforce the existing provisions that would require or that would enable right to repair. So
Kyle Wiens, of course, of iFixit has been involved. You can go to the repair.org site, states.repair.org, to sign the petition. You need to do this before February 2nd so that the FTC sees this. There's other ways you can join the fight. I agree with you 100%. And I'm guessing Consumer Reports is also very much involved in this. They've been big
I'm
advocates.
writing our formal comments.
Yay. Absolutely. I mean, yes. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
Good.
You don't have to get super nerdy on like, oh my gosh, software pairing is wrong or anything crazy. You could just be like, hey, it would be awesome if I could replace the battery in my phone.
Right.
Yep.
In fact, they probably take that with more seriously, wouldn't they? I mean, that's a real person.
No, they're going to pour over my comments, Leo. They're going to pour over them with.
You're going to believe it firmly, vividly. All right. Right to Repair. We're behind it. So is the EFF, iFixit, repair.org, and Consumer Reports. Thank you, Stacey. It's always a pleasure. And I'll see you in a little while, a week from Thursday for our, I guess it's 2 weeks from Thursday for our book club. So it's not too late. You got 2 weeks.
It's a week from next Thursday.
It is a week from next Thursday. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Get reading.
I'm halfway through right now, but it gets happier, right? The sun comes out, the dust storms stop, the water flows, and everybody has no. Okay. The book is actually a great book. It's good. It's good. Read it. The Water Knife by Paolo Bacigalupi. Right?
Yeah, we're going to solve our water issues yeah, it's going to totally happen.
Yeah. And also just a tip, don't keep hyenas as pets.
What about capybaras?
I don't know. Maybe capybaras would be okay.
Yeah, they're benign. Sure. They don't eat people.
I think they might, actually. I don't know. That's Ben Parr. You better ask your AI. He is the author of The AI Analyst, which is available everywhere, co-founder of Octane AI, and you will read his columns frequently in The Information, which I do. I am a happy subscriber. Thank you, Ben. Anything you'd like to plug besides that?
I have two things. One, I made a 110-page presentation for a conference on AI investor trends, what they're investing in, what the numbers look like. So if you're interested in that, it's on benparr.com, benparr.com. You can get that deck. You can go look at all the numbers. You can find out how much more people, VCs, are investing into AI than other types of companies. Hint, it's a lot. You can find out cool stuff about things like Mamba and liquid neural networks and all the stuff that I am watching. My own, so go to that one. And then my other one is Go Lions.
Shut up.
For those who are listening and think right now, I got the notification. It is 21-7 Lions. So I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
Who are they playing?
They're playing the 49ers.
Ah! By the way,
there's one this is just a good story. Also, I'm from the Midwest.
It is a good story. No.
I got a root.
It is a good story. And if we do lose, which we won't because we're going to come back in the second half. But if we do lose, at least it'll be to a team that hasn't been in the Super Bowl since how long?
So it's like what, the 70s? It's a very long time. It's a very long time, which is why people, they had their last time in the Super Bowl. They've never been to a Super Bowl.
That's the answer, by the way. They've never been to a Super Bowl. So in that case, Lions. You're right. I mean, but only if they win, not if they lose. If they lose, I'll be happy. $50 billion past year on AI startups. That's kind of an amazing. Put that in perspective. Is that a lot for venture capital investments?
What's interesting is that 2021 was still just a hair higher in terms of the money put into AI startups, just because there's so much more money in 2021. But as a percentage of overall funding, 1 out of every $4 in venture went to AI startups last year. That number will be higher, I'm almost certain, this year in 2024. And the real thing that moves the needle here is, more than anything, interest rates, which is just fascinating. No matter what you do, the interest rates determine how many dollars go into AI or venture capital. And the interest rates are probably going to go down a little bit this year. So you will probably see more money and you might see a few more exits. It's crazy. There's a lot of predictions around how much it's going to increase GDP. Goldman Sachs predicted 7%. I think that is way too small. It'll be a lot of a larger impact. But it also have a large impact. Like, I just go through all this stuff in that deck of where are people putting the money. I will say one other thing, which is out of that $50 billion that was invested last year into AI startups, that's a stat from Crunchbase, half of that went to just 11 companies.
Wow.
And so this is also proof of what they call the power law in venture capital, which is like the biggest returns come from a very small group of companies you invest in. And so a lot of the money went to a small group of companies. But there's still over 5,000 companies in AI got VC funding last year. And a number will almost certainly go up this year.
The AI analyst at benparr.com. Thank you, Ben. It was so good to see you, Allyn Malventano.
Fun to be here.
SSD technologist at Phison. And anything else you want to plug?
I don't really have anything else going on.
Go to work for the NSA, kids. You see the world.
Actually, you won't see much of the world.
You won't see the world, but you see the world's data, and that's more valuable. Thank you, Allyn. Always a pleasure. I appreciate it. We'll get you back soon. Thanks to all three of you. Thanks to all of you who joined us. We appreciate it. A couple more days to take the survey. We want to know more about you. If you haven't yet, twit.tv/survey24. We do this once a year because we don't know anything about you. We're proud to say, unless you volunteer it. And that way we know if we're on the target with what you want to hear and read and watch. And it also helps us with sell advertising, of course. But we don't reveal any personal information. Don't worry. It's not about you individually, just about the audience as a whole. Twit.tv/survey24. It really does help us out. Thank you. We will be back next Sunday. We do Twit every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 5 Pacific. That is 5 to 8 Eastern time. That is 2200 UTC. We turn on the live stream on YouTube right when the show starts and turn it off when the show ends. If you go to youtube.com/twit, you'll see it there. In fact, if you sign up, you get a notification. Of course, you can watch the show at your leisure or listen at your leisure. You'll find episodes at twit.tv. There's a dedicated YouTube channel. And, of course, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client. We thank you for doing so, and we will see you next week. But for now, another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.